We start this show today with heavy hearts. Good friend of ours, big industry name, Sherry Pollex, passed away on Sunday following the race at Bristol. Big-time fighter for her life who helped so many people and will continue to help so many people on their journey with cancer. I met Sherry back when she was dating John Wood. Her dad owned a Busch Series car that Jeff Green and Scott Riggs and those guys drove, and always a big smile, always a big hug, and definitely going to miss her. And I think it's awesome that her legacy will forever live on in this sport. So we're going to take a moment of silence before we start today's show.
Hey everybody, I'm TJ Major, spotter of the 8 Xfinity car, the 6 Cup car this weekend, and I did ARCA race, Brett, and I truck raced.
I'm proud of you.
Busy week.
Appreciate it.
I had a busy weekend. I drank Fireball and Busch Light all night on Saturday with probably the craziest group of Ultimate Experience fans that we've ever had.
There was some unique individuals.
I mean, when you guys got there at 4:30, a bunch of them were already buzzed up.
I was going to say, there's some drunk people at 4 o'clock, so I don't know what they looked like at 10 o'clock when the race ended.
Oh, Brett Griffin, the spotter for Chandler Smith when he runs a good old Cup car. I thought about maybe doing the Roval, Freddie, on that Saturday, since we're doing something on Saturday night after the old races out there for Charlotte Motor Speedway.
So
Can you give me a gig?
Yeah, you can do my.
You just take the day off. Yeah.
What's up, Freddie Kraft, spotter for Bubba Wallace, Chandler Smith. I had Greg Van Alst on for Thursday night, I guess. Just truck racing. What's up, Casey?
Usually when I don't recognize a name, it means it didn't go well.
Oh no, that ain't even the worst. That part went fine.
It didn't go well.
Oh.
We need to talk about that, don't we?
I have it noted. Don't worry. Hey guys, Casey Boat here, your marketing professional, and this episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Birch Gold Group. Don't forget, you can get a free info kit on gold by texting DBC to 989898.
Did you forget the number?
I can't see TJ, and I wanted him to give me a look.
That's because
like
the number is
989.
989.
Why can't you see TJ? Is that a fat joke?
I wasn't gonna say it. But
Well, actually, in her defense, Freddie, you did say you were like an eclipse before the show started. So
that was on yourself. If you place an order by October 31st, you can get a free gift card to score some awesome Dirty Mo merch worth up to $500.
I'll tell you, that's awesome. I'll tell you what else is worth $500. Tim Duggar canceling on you at the last minute.
Yeah.
Does he got to pay us or something?
He's in California. Like, who thought they were going to be in Charlotte and end up in California?
Not me.
the same guy that ends up in Ireland the day before,
It takes months for me to prepare to go to California.
That should be my one idiot today.
It takes
Tim
Duggar 30 minutes that he's going to Ireland tomorrow.
But with that said, we went out and got a bigger name, probably the hardest working guy. And God, it's going to be hard to say that without Bob Pockris coming top of mind. But arguably the hardest working guy in all of motorsports, not just NASCAR. Bob's got that title, Matt. Matt Weaver, man, welcome to the show.
No, thank you. This is so cool to be here. The only issue with being here now is I don't know what I'm going to listen to. This is how I start every single week, so it kind of takes the joy out of what I'm going to do once Monday's over.
Well, here's what you can do. We have this rule, and we didn't tell you this before the show, so we can say it on the show. Don't suck, okay? So go back and listen to the show to make sure that you didn't suck.
That's the goal. I never try to suck.
This show's going to be a lot more tame. Anytime Tiff and her anytime
I get
Tiff's
scared.
here.
I get scared when I see Tiff.
Jenna, we get
Studio
nervous.
audience.
We get nervous when Tiff's here because usually we're in trouble at that point.
Basically, you
I
need
need
to
a
be on
curtain.
your best behavior.
Yeah,
That's not
Tiff,
gonna
can you
happen.
guys sit over here in the corner where we can't see you?
So Matt, man, I want to jump right in on you. How many races do you go to in a year normally?
I wanted to make it this season. I wanted to do that, whether it's in December after the Derby or January Chili Bowl. I've never thought about it. I'm so busy. The NASCAR season ends, and that's when a lot of people tend to do honeydews or other projects. And to me, that starts a whole other string of races, whether it's the South Carolina 400 in South Carolina, Snowball Derby, Thanksgiving Classic, Chili Bowl. I never stop doing races. So I don't even have time to consider or think about the number of races that I do. But I've been asked so many times this year, and I think I want to sit down and actually put that project together because it's got to be a really interesting number, right?
If you had to guess, what do you think?
I can't even because it's the number of like the NASCAR weekends. That's 3 to 4 races a weekend. the number of midweek late model shows. World of Outlaws runs on weekdays too. I do a good number of those shows.
That's crazy.
So that just
And how many times do you fly a year?
Not a lot.
Yeah,
Maybe
almost never.
This year, I think I've had two flight races.
We do have.
You lost your f***ing mind.
We
I'm
ha-
going to just come out and say
Hey,
it.
listen, we have. So first of all, let's talk truck for a second. How many miles were on your truck?
Oh, I noticed you say were, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what we're gonna break news here in a second.
We are. It got to 482,500 miles. 2003 Silverado.
Second engine, right?
Second engine,
yeah.
second transmission. It's kind of like the truck of Thesis. How many times can you replace the parts and it's still the original truck?
Your truck needed its own GoFundMe.
And now, where is the truck, man?
It's sitting in the parking lot in Mobile. Darlington weekend, I went to leave to Florence to watch Dale race the late model, and I went to go fire it up, and the starter for the second time in 5 months would not go, and it's got a leaky rear main seal. That generation of truck, it just spits all over the starter, and so it just killed the starter.
What year and what kind of truck is this? We got to know.
Yeah, 2003 Silverado.
Okay. All right.
So if you got one, you can run 482,000 miles.
Honey, I need a new truck. No, you don't, ass. I heard Matt Weaver say that his truck ran for 480,000 miles. You're fine.
That was the second motor, though.
It don't matter.
A second motor, I've had it since high school, 2005, and it's lasted me the entirety up until 23.
So I'm not asking you
crazy.
this in a weird way, but is there like a mattress in the back of this thing? Like, where do you sleep on all these nights?
It's been
That's
a long
a little
time.
weird, actually.
No.
I mean,
Well, that's the reputation,
you-
right?
yeah.
I mean, that's what
He's
Brett
done-
has,
I'm sure he's
has
done
in his truck.
I think I've probably slept in that truck 250 times. I can estimate that. That sounds about right. Because there were times where the first 4 or 5 years that I covered Florida Speed Weeks, we're there for like Volusia, New Smyrna, Daytona. I'm sleeping in my truck every single night the first 3 or 4 years that I go there. So that's 13, 14 days a year right to start the season.
Yeah,
That's roughly every 2,000
And you wonder
miles.
why we say he's the hardest working man in motorsports. Like you talked about all the events you go to throughout the year. What's your marquee event? I know there's Chili Bowl, there's Snowball, there's a bunch of marquee events throughout the year. But what is your race that you look forward to every year?
Listen, it's the big ones, right? Like I have the great fortune to do the Daytona 500. I go to the Indianapolis 500 every year, the Knoxville Nationals, Chili Bowl, Snowball Derby, the Martinsville 300 this weekend. I don't put one above any other, but to me it's one of those things to where when you go through the gate, if you feel something a little extra special inside, those are the ones that I get up for the most, and you feel it in your gut, really.
Yeah.
What series do you think does that the best job of providing for fans and attendees in general?
Truly NASCAR. Like I believe that NASCAR fully, from the on-track product to the fan experience, hospitality, and engagement, there's a reason they are number one in North American motorsports, and it's the complete experience from every facet of the business.
Where did you and how did you fall in love with racing? Because you're obviously, you're the opposite of Joel Edmonds at this point in your career.
I mean, polar opposite.
But no, honestly, what age did you start going to the racetrack? How did you fall in love with it so much?
I think I've been told my first race was probably 6-7 weeks old.
Wow.
So my dad's a dirt racer, and so to me, I thought everyone went to the dirt track to watch their dad race. I thought that's what everyone did, and it's all I've ever done. And so I've been attending races either with my dad. I raced a little bit when I was a teenager, and that continued on into my professional career to the point to where I've always said, if for whatever reason this journey would end tomorrow, I would be, one, very grateful, but two, I have no idea what I would do. Like I'm not capable, I'm not equipped to do anything other than motorsports.
Speaking of that, where are you at now? Like I know where you've made multiple stops along the way, but talk about where you're at.
He
now.
don't know where he's at.
He's still trying to figure it
Trying
out.
to figure that out. He hasn't driven there yet.
Which day, right? Right now, it's Sports Not. I'm very grateful to have picked up that job there this year. I've made some changes the last couple of years, experimented a little bit with what I wanted to do, what role I wanted my career to have. I was able to latch on there. It's kind of an emerging sports company. I call it Sports Illustrated for the digital social era. I've ran short track scene for, I think it's 11 years now. And we can talk about short track scene. My dirt track is on Dirt Tracker. And so I'm all over. I'm worldwide, right?
Perfect.
You are worldwide. So, with that said, before we jump into the guts of the show, man, I knew my dream job literally after being here for a few months. And I fortunately I landed it, right? But like, what's your dream job? What's the biggest thing you could do that you possibly could make it come true? What is it?
What I'm doing right now. And I can say that because for the last year and a half, I did something different. When I was at Racing America, it was still in content creation, right? And I'm still writing, but I'm working for the Cup teams. And it reminded me how much I enjoy being on the independent media side. It's a completely different world than what I was doing. I like being that guy that can jump from discipline to discipline. And that was so much of what driven me over the past 3 years, is that One Stop wanted me to be just the NASCAR guy, and I love my NASCAR, but I wanted to be the short track guy. I wanted to do dirt track racing, and I get to do that now. I want to be a guy that's independent media. I feel like we don't have enough independent voices in the sport, and that's of no disrespect to the TV partners, Racing America, NASCAR.com, but it's a different approach to the job, and I feel like we have less of that, fewer of those than at any point in our history, and I wanted to contribute to that style of storytelling.
Yeah, you give grassroots racing a huge voice, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned, when I saw you went to Racing America for a point there, and I was like, this is a weird fit for me because Matt's always been a guy that's not afraid to ruffle feathers. He's kind of been outspoken against NASCAR and certain things, and then you're going essentially to work for NASCAR or work for the teams. And I was like, man, where do you draw that line of, just aside from Racing America, but, I'm going to write whatever I want to write, and if it pisses people off, that's what happens.
Well, I do feel that way, right? Like I feel like, for one, my background, not that I deserve anything in this sport, but I think my background warrants me a certain degree of leeway, because no one can question my passion, my bona fides, my resume, my racing smarts. And so I don't need people to always agree with me. In fact, I encourage people to disagree because I enjoy the discourse. I enjoy the conversation. I just want people to be able to respect where it came from. And it came from a kid that first attended a dirt race at 6 months old, 6 weeks old, whatever it was, and has been at a racetrack pretty much every single weekend of his entire life from year one. And you don't have to agree with it, but you have to respect that, I think.
Yeah, Brett's a big fan of people disagreeing with him, too.
I'm fine with them disagreeing. Just
you block them.
No, I block them when they call me names or when they
I mean, after
attack
this
me.
weekend, there is a list of people that you have blocked, and
you
they all
mention-
tweeted me.
If you mention Clemson on Saturday morning, you're blocked.
I mean, this guy
100%.
where'd you find that guy you were fighting with on Saturday?
Clemson Tom?
Yeah.
I actually
Megan's like, did Brett search this guy out just to flip him off?
no. I follow a bunch of college football stuff on Twitter, and this Clemson Tom ended up on my timeline. Who hasn't ended up on my timeline?
And you just
in a
had to
while.
flip him off.
Just had to flip him off.
Real fast.
Yeah.
What's the higher number, the number of miles on my truck or the number of accounts that you have blocked?
It's close.
It's a tie, Matt. It's a tie.
It's very close.
So
One thing that you like, why me and Brett were talking about, bringing you on here was the recent article you wrote about the Xfinity series, and I think this weekend was another perfect example of it. The Xfinity racing is better than the Cup racing right now, and is that an issue? Like, is that a problem that our AAA league is better than our MLB league right now?
Yeah, I don't know that it's a problem yet, and I certainly didn't write the story to disparage the current state of the Cup product, but I think it's important to appreciate the things that we have in the moment. I think that the next gen is still a work in progress. I think that it's made mile-and-a-half tracks way better than what we've had over the last decade. It's made our best tracks, the short tracks and the road courses, worse, but it's not about that, right? I think that, to me, my fandom began in the short tracks Busch Grand National Series, and to me, the current Xfinity Series has the most personality it's had since it was the Busch Grand National Series. And I just wanted to take a minute to kind of make people recognize, hey, if you're only watching on Sundays, that's cool. We want you here. But watch these races on Saturday, too, because they are the absolute best show in the sport.
Why the Xfinity Series is NASCAR's best product right now is a story Freddie's referencing, and a great read, and it's actually literally what made my brain go, let's get that guy on here.
But
Yeah.
on that note, we talk a little bit about this on the show of, the track for future drivers today. Is it going from trucks to Cup because they're more similar, or is it skipping Xfinity Series? Is it going to the Xfinity Series first? I mean, in your mind right now, with how the Xfinity Series is, what would you think is the right approach?
Yeah, it's a shame because I do love the Xfinity series, but if I am a driver on a development platform, I think to me, you look at Hocevar. The fact that Carson Hocevar has gone from being a truck series guy the last 2.5 years to now he gets put in the 42 car and he is immediately up to speed. And I think he hasn't had a chance to truly get tripped up by that Xfinity car yet, because the Xfinity car is, way draggier, less horsepower. It's more of a drafting momentum car, and that's what the Cup car of today is. And I think that if you spend too much time in the Xfinity car, it makes you less equipped, in my opinion, to go Cup racing tomorrow.
Yeah, well, Hocevar did another phenomenal job this weekend. One last question for you, Matt, before we move into spot on, spot off. Will your
We
Cubs?
ain't bullshit yet.
Oh, yeah, we have plenty of BS for that.
But will your Cubs win the wild card?
Oh, man. They've lost 8 in a row or 7 of 8. I said for the last 2 years that they've been on this kind of rebuilding phase, and I just wanted September to matter again because I'm a big baseball guy. That's what I write to every night. It's kind of my constant. I don't need the Cubs to make the playoffs for it to be a successful season. I just want to be able to say that they were in it all the way until the end of the regular season, and I think we're going to have that kind of year.
Yeah, my Mets took off in March, so that was we haven't been excited about it. And I thought after the way the game started last night, I thought the football season was over in week 2 also.
I think this isn't a baseball podcast.
I think this is a great segue to something that you talked about the other day when we were at Bristol. TJ and how great he was at Bristol, just kind of setting everything on fire.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man, I lit some stuff up there.
I mean, do you play with matches? Because
when
your
I was
car
a
was
kid,
on fire in Daytona. We had to drive around in circles.
I
Should have
know.
got black flag for that. Then you set Josh ablaze on Friday night in the truck in the Xfinity race.
In all fairness, Josh kind of said it.
Then you switch over to Dale's channel and get him on fire. I mean,
Yeah.
what were you doing the other night?
Count my Lowe's gift cards is what I was doing. By the way, when you said that South Carolina 400, you meant that race at Florence, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, just checking.
So you
Wonder
going
what
to the
that means.
JRM meeting this week or no?
No.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about that for a minute, TJ. What the f*** are you guys doing? You like a bowling ball in there, just wiped all your teammates out.
Well, there was a great opportunity to, I was just kind of getting my I'm going to leave it go. That's what
I assume.
Yeah, wait, what?
I assume
Listen.
Josh had a flat.
we have some experience in this area from Daytona, so I mean, it's not like we didn't know how to do it.
Josh Berry wipes out 3 out of 5 cars, his and 2 more.
Yeah, I just got them other 2.
That's why I said, can you
There's
imagine if
always that
Dale
key.
was right behind us and piled
So
in? Like,
that whole scenario, I don't know how they hit just right. They didn't even hit hard. They bumped just right, and it cut Josh's tire. I mean, I didn't even think anything else with the contact. It wasn't that hard.
why are you bumping your teammates? I mean, damn, it's early in the race for bumping teammates.
I mean, they weren't like trying to hit. Josh is trying to get the best, as far as he can to try to win. If you look at Bristol, the wall comes down a little bit off the corners, and Sam is running the radius of the wall. Kind of when he comes out the corner, he's driving off the wall, and Josh is driving off Sam. So Josh is going up, Sam's coming down a tiny bit. And they just met in the middle, and it wasn't anything even that severe, but it was severe enough to go into one and not turn. So.
Well, let's talk about the other JRM car with Dale running on Friday. Do you think that NASCAR should have thrown that caution when he caught on fire?
Listen, if you want consistency, yes, because we throw cautions when there's a tire rolling around on pit road. Now you've got a car parked there with a guy walking around on pit road. Like, if I don't think. Personally, I don't think it needs to be a caution. I would love, like, if they have a pit road, if the tire rolls out there, just go get it. There's no reason to throw a caution. But if you're looking for consistency, yeah, it probably should have been a caution.
This arguably cost us a win in the Xfinity race at Richmond, the first race. Josh, we're leading the race, pretty big lead. 51 stops on pit road. There's no different than that pit road than Bristol pit road. Plenty of room. That he was sitting there. They threw the yellow for him, and that bunched everything back up, and obviously you don't know what's going to happen from there, but I don't see how there's a caution at Bristol or there's a caution at Richmond and not one at Bristol.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know that it's warranted personally, but like,
what's the difference between you coming down pit road right there? Something's wrong with your car, you got to go behind the wall to fix it. What's wrong with the guys pushing it back and going behind the wall? Do we need a caution for that?
But here's another thing. What if the other guy wanted to pit and Dale Jr.'s in his pit box?
I mean, I get it.
Then what are you going to
Yeah.
do? How's it fair to screw that guy and his team over? So, listen, Bristol does have guarded, protected pit walls where, I mean, I think, to Freddie's point, maybe you can run out there and get a tire. But at the same time, we as spotters, Matt, we tell these guys all the time, if they wreck, remember, pit road's an option. You just have to decelerate. And the way that banking is, I have seen drivers go down pit road to avoid wrecks. So, I'm pro throw the caution there.
I am too. So listen, NASCAR tells us all the time, and you guys talk about it too, that yellow flag is a safety lever, not an entertainment lever. So to me, when you have a car that's on fire, the driver says, I'm on fire, and he parks in the first pit stall. It's the number 20's pit stall. The 20 team might need it. Now you've got their crew members pulling a guy out of a car that's
What if
on
it's
fire.
under red? Asking for a friend.
But then you have you might need safety crew, medical officials. There's a lot of things that get put into play in that scenario where a car is on fire and is on pit road. And so I think in that scenario, you have to be able to give that car the full attention it warrants.
I like this guy. He agrees with me right off the bat.
I mean,
Start. Well,
let's
so-
not
well,
get ahead
so
of ourselves
far.
here.
I don't want to get blocked.
Are you a Clemson fan?
I am today.
You're blocked. There we go. That ended that.
One thing is for sure, it was so cool to see Dale back on track, and you can tell from the fans yelling Dale 20 billion times to sunburnt Dale.
That guy's crazy.
I don't even know how to describe
that
it.
guy,
Oh,
that's
my
a
gosh.
contender for what an
Do
idiot.
you-
Did you see this guy?
Yeah.
He taped. I think it was a 9 on the front for Chase
Yeah.
and an 88 on the
Oh, I
back.
did see that on TV.
And then he sunburned the rest of himself and pulled it off so he could see the numbers.
I can't imagine this
What-
dermatologist
what-
approved.
Oh, no.
He was cooked, by
was
the way.
cooked, yeah.
He was as red as that flag
I
back
would say he
there.
did a good job doing both sides. I mean, it was pretty evened up.
Do you think that
The funny thing for me, though, is I was spending a lot of time with Mike Davis last week, and
Sorry to
and,
hear
and
that.
he kind of just hints around that Dale gets nervous, and in these big weeks like this, like he kind of just goes back to the way it used to be when he raced every single week, and then on TV and at the racetrack and everything else, like Dale looked like the happiest I've ever seen him at a racetrack.
He's
I mean,
fine once he settles in. He's nervous for sure.
Yeah, but even pre-race, he's holding his daughters and
Yeah.
they're kissing him, and like he just seemed joyful.
I'm telling you, Tuesday before the Florence race last weekend, when I got that call at 8 o'clock in the morning, it was like, oh, they moved a race. I could tell he was like excited, but also nervous too. So,
How about this guy's got Junior shaved into his, I don't know, stomach hair. What the? Wow.
Good for him.
Dale brings out the good in people.
TJ,
What?
did you switch over to spotting for Dale?
No, I'm not. No.
it was a joke? It was-
Okay.
it was a
All right.
joke
Absolutely
about the
not.
fire.
I did flip over to
I thought I
listen.
He
missed
It was
switched
it was
over and
great.
started listening, and that's when Dale called on fire.
It was
Okay.
it was a while
Instantaneous.
later.
Instantaneously. As soon as he
No,
changed the
yeah.
channel, poof, game's
It
over.
it was a while because I got to sit there and listen to him holler at Joey Meyer, which
Did you have
How,
flashbacks? Like, oh,
I was
God.
like, it's not me for once. Thank goodness.
How do you think? I think was this Joey's first time spotting for Dale, and I guess it's.
No, I think he's probably spotted for
Oh
him.
no,
Wow.
he did it back in the
Did him
day.
way
Well,
back
yeah,
in
but
the day.
I meant like in the last.
In the
few
last
years.
15 years, yeah.
I would feel really weird about having my pilot spot for me, because I don't.
And then if you cuss him,
Well, here's my thing. I don't like to fly. I don't like turbulence, despite being on an airplane 300 hours a year. I would be afraid that if I were like, Joey, what are you doing? You're an idiot. Da, 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 da. That he'd be like, oh, you wait till that next flight we
Yeah.
take off. We're staying in the clouds. We're not
Yeah,
going up
that,
to 12,000 feet. We're just going to ride the bumps.
Joey never gets tore up over anything like that.
Oh, yeah, right. Joey's pretty sensitive. Anyway, Noah Gragson, reinstated, obviously suspended a while back. He's been off the radar, exact opposite of what Kyle Larson did. Kyle was out there, man, winning races and racing everything he could get in. What do you think's next for Noah?
I think he's going to end back up in NASCAR, right? I think he's going to spend the rest of the year running the late model. He's going to run a Pinty's
I
car.
was going to say, I saw him testing a Pinty's car. I
Yeah,
think,
before he went down to Toledo. I think this is going to be the beginning of his kind of barnstorming tour where he's going to run everything and just remind everyone that he's a racer and he just wants to be in a car. And I think he's going to have some options. He's a guy that, has proven he can win at, the Truck Series level, the Xfinity Series level. I think most important for him is he needs something that's kind of a cultural fit. I'm not saying something that will tolerate or allow what happened to him, but he is a very quirky personality type, and I think that the moment that Jimmy bought in there and kind of changed the culture a little bit, that was never going to work out for Noah. And so I think that whatever Noah does next, it's got to be a team that kind of embraces kind of his various personality nuances, for lack of a better term.
What team do you
So
think?
him and Chris Rice are going to get along real well.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense too. I think that they complement each other very well. They're guys who like to have fun. They can have fun, but I also think that Chris is professional enough that he can draw a very clear line, and you can have a good time. But we're going to get to work on Saturdays and Sundays.
Well, on the same topic of driver team changes, what do you think about the news this week, especially around Trackhouse with SVG siding with Trackhouse, and then Zane Smith as well?
Yeah, so SVG is, that was inevitable, right? Like, he was always going to end up there. I can't wait to see what the schedule looks like. I know that Justin says that he's waiting to see what the national touring schedule looks like. I kind of floated out on Twitter. I said, man, I'd love to see SVG run at least one full season in something and make it Cars Tour.
I saw you said that, yeah.
And
I
then-
thought it was also a good idea.
Yeah, and he said, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be cool for him to have one anchor series in addition to, a dozen Cup, a dozen Xfinity, a dozen trucks. And so I'm super excited for him and what that's going to look like. As for Zane, listen, I've covered Zane since he was 12 years old. And he has won in literally everything he's ever driven. And, Keselowski said it on Monday, this guy's going to be a champion, and we would have wanted him too. And I think that's accurate. Zane's going to be a superstar for a long time, and it's just a matter of getting him comfortable and up to speed.
Yeah, and I think what's kind of funky about this whole Zane Smith thing is it's like the world came 360. I mean, when Marks went and bought Ganassi, Ganassi had Zane under contract. So it's kind of cool for Zane that he probably hit a panic button going, oh, no, what for me now? Like, what's going to happen to me? And then you fast forward, here he is. How much pressure, though, Freddie, does this put on Daniel Suarez?
A lot, a lot, because not only do you have Zane Smith sitting there under contract, you've got SVG, who is coming. It's just a matter of how quickly he can adapt to ovals and how quickly, the idea is to get him to a Cup as soon as they can, because he is a guy that's he could be a perennial playoff guy because he can go out and win road course races. And we have, 4 or 5 of them on the schedule. But, yeah, you're sitting there now and, obviously pretty sure, I don't even know if it's been announced, it may have been, Zane's going to run at Spire, more than likely. They bought that BJ McLeod charter for $40 million. So he's going to run there for a year or two, who knows. But there's a guy in-house under contract sitting there waiting to take your seat. So and listen, Daniel, the performance hasn't been there of late. They've been struggling pretty bad the last month or so, I feel like.
Ross hasn't been as fast as he obviously ended the second half of last year either. But I think, Matt, that the Wicks turned up on Suarez.
Oh, I agree. Listen, so Ross is still, in the championship mix. He made the playoffs. Daniel didn't. The ceiling it's always been high for Daniel, so it's not a matter of can he be that guy. I think he can. But the problem with Daniel has always been consistently putting those runs together. And I think the next-gen car has kind of exaggerated those characteristics too, because this car kind of makes you even less consistent inherently. And so when the car can already be kind of a bit of a dart and you don't know from week to week whether or not you can contend for wins, listen, he's going to be under a lot of pressure. And I think that, one, you've got 2 people who now want your seat, and those charters are not easy to come by. And I know Justin wants another one, but at $40 million, God, the supply and demand is pretty scarce.
Well, on that note, for those who may not be as close to the industry, what is driving up the cost of those charters since its inception?
Right now it's the pending TV contract. Teams anticipating getting a bigger chunk of the pie, and it's basically like stock market. It's speculation. You talk about guys who are buying charters for what, like $12-13 million a couple years ago.
No, they were 5 or 6.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't that long ago that Furniture Row sold theirs to Spire for $6 million.
Yeah, and now you look at it, here it is. That's 5 years later, and
Dale Jr. was sitting here going, "I'm not paying $10 million." Well, I bet he wishes he would, because that ain't a bad return, right?
Yeah.
I'm all for it, and I'm all for it because, and I don't want this to sound condescending to BJ McLeod, but we took away a car that gets lapped first almost every race. And we're seeing a team buy it, Inspire Motorsports, that historically prior to this year had for the most part run in the back with at least one of their cars. So what you're seeing happen is a big investment from Spire into expanding. And you're seeing a big investment in Spire of getting rid of drivers who historically haven't won and bringing in guys that obviously haven't won in the Cup Series yet, but they're going to be winners. When you look at your driver lineup and it's, Corey LaJoie, Carson Hocevar, and Zane Smith, that's a pretty dang powerful, opportunistic lineup. So I think it says, and based on what they're doing from a manufacturing perspective, it sounds like they're really lining up to have some technical alliances. Guess what that cost? A bunch of money, millions of dollars. Guess what else they've done? I asked these guys on here about a couple weeks ago, hey, what's going on with the spotter stand? Any big shakeups? And Freddie and TJ kind of looked at me like, no, not really. Well, I knew some were coming. And so I made a couple comments about spotters are getting paid. Well, guess what? Spire's at the top of the market. If they're paying drivers and they're paying spotters and they're paying crew chiefs, they're going to have people. They're going to have talent. If they're paying Hendrick Motorsports, make that up, an alliance fee, they're going to have faster cars. If they're paying for the best motors, Freddie, we knew for a fact last year the 7 got a good motor and the 77 was on a different plan. That's not their plan anymore. So we get to see a big investment by a back runner, Spire Motorsports. I think it elevates their game. Based on the things they're doing, I would anticipate that after a quarter way through the season next year, Matt, they're consistently running top 20 with those 3 cars.
I agree. So listen, I've always been very bullish and optimistic on the charter system going back to 2016 because as a stick and ball fan, I see the model. I see the pros of that. Having spent a year and a half in the Race Team Alliance and better understanding their market, their platform, this is a big win for the entire industry. And I know fans have kind of nostalgia glasses on. We used to go to Daytona and we had 60 cars for 43 spots. We don't live in that world. If you were to get rid of the charter system tomorrow, you're still going to have 40 and 41 cars.
Yep.
We're not going to live in that era. I think what the system does is it encourages a 36-car field that everyone is trying to compete. Now, we're not going to have the ultimate parity that NASCAR intends to have, but I think with all due respect to Joe Falk and Matt Tifft and BJ McLeod, we have now replaced a car that had no intent to compete with a car that wants to win races and win a championship. That's a win for everyone, fans included.
Yeah, and when you look at it, it's guys like Steve Newmark that are at Roush. It's guys like Curtis that are over at 2311. Like, Steve's an accomplished attorney, a very smart businessman. Like, they're leading the charge with NASCAR. Rob Kaufman kind of started this whole thing, to be honest with you. I was at MWR back in those days. Like, this model is making the owners have value. That only makes the teams more funded, and it only makes everybody's game get elevated. So when I saw this, I was like, hey, good for these 3 guys that own this charter. They just made bank, and good for the sport. It's good for everybody. Football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL.
New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets.
Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September.
Get in on the NFL action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code CLEAR to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code CLEAR. The crown is yours.
Well, back to Bristol in the playoffs. We have 4 drivers who were eliminated after this race between Harvick, Logano, Stenhouse, and McDowell. Matt, first I want to ask you, what do you think about the playoffs and the current format?
I'm a big fan of it. And listen, I struggle with that sometimes because I am a traditionalist and I have a lot of kind of old school tendencies. But as a storyteller and really as a fan, I look forward to these final 10 weeks so much because there are so many storylines and the intensity of every lap. And I remember back when we had the old chase format, it still felt procedural. We're still points racing. And I know there's a lot of fans who miss the old points racing, but the value of a win has never been higher at the highest level of the sport. And the things that encourages drivers and teams to do to win races is something that we all benefit from. We do not have the Ross Chastain move last year if it's not for that. We don't have some of the aggressive tendencies on restarts if it's not for the value of a win. And I think it makes the final 10 races so exciting.
Well,
Freddie, how nervous were you?
It was a very stressful last 100 and 150 laps, whatever it was.
Because basically, if you don't wreck and you finish top 15-ish, you're okay.
We had a 4-point buffer pretty much the second half of the race. And,
That's pressure.
there's a restart where we lost a couple. And we had like a 7-point buffer, and there's a restart where we lost 3 spots right off the bat. Like, we got stuck in a bad lane and lost 3 spots. And you're at that 7-point buffer, you're like, we're pretty good. Then all of a sudden you lose 3 spots, you're like, well, now we're only 4 to the good, and credit to Bubba just did a good job of staying patient. There was one time where we got into a little bit of a shoving match with Larson, and I'm like, just let him go. Like he does not matter to us, just let him go.
Once we got position on him, he rolled over and let us go too. But you could tell he was in a finish the race mode. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what.
That's a nerve-wracking mode when you can't go out and attack and race.
Yeah.
And I've been in it, and we've all been in it if we've done this long enough.
You're holding your breath for 100 laps. Like, please, no caution. Like, because then, like, I wasn't so worried about it, but then you get to a point where, like, Harvick was so many laps down that he really wasn't a concern for me. It was more Ricky Stenhouse, honestly, because he was running well. He was in front of us, and if we ended up, where my concern came in was we got lapped and he hadn't gotten lapped yet. So now that puts us on a lap with 4 or 5 other guys behind us that we can lose positions to.
Yeah.
That Ricky, he's
and
not,
can't catch anybody.
and we can't catch anybody.
Yeah.
So that was when we got lapped and he hadn't been lapped. I was like, okay, we don't need a yellow, please, no yellow. And luckily, I figured the yellow was coming because Denny was leading, and I feel like he gets a caution at the end of the races all the time.
A bunch of stories. Matt was talking about stories. Martin Truex, with a huge point cushion going into round 1, barely gets out of round 1. He's the biggest winner.
Yeah. Well,
he's the biggest winner from last week.
This is what we talked about last week with all these people. Everybody was coming on us last week about, the regular season champ needs a bigger advantage. He should have got a bye through the first round, yada, yada, yada.
He did.
He did. If he didn't have that point cushion, he wouldn't have made it. And now look at him. He's the damn point leader again. Like,
he finished like 18th, 36th, and 19th. Like, he had a terrible round, gets out, now he's right back in the butt. But I want to talk real quick about the 4 that got cut out. No surprises, Stenhouse and McDowell are out.
Listen, they ran phenomenal Saturday night,
Right.
both of them.
Yeah, they did what they could.
Yeah. But just if you start round 1 and you say these 2 guys are going to be out, you're going to be like, I'm not surprised. Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, former Cup Series champions, both out. Surprise factor there.
So to me, and it goes back to what I said about this format, is the biggest complaint that fans give me all the time is, the only races that matter are the final 10, and that's not true. Every single stage, the stage points that you get, the stage playoff points, it does not surprise me that the 4 and the 22 are out because they did not have the regular season to give them the buffer that the 19 had. And that's really what it came to in that last race, is that the success that Martin enjoyed in the regular season gave him the buffer and the cushion he needed to advance. And to me, that is the best of both worlds between a season-long format and a playoff, and it rewarded him for that season.
And you talk about the stage points. That's the reason we transferred. That first stage, we were committed. We seen the 6. We talked about the 6 doing it last year. We're committed to staying out the whole first stage. Like, we're just,
So we did.
Take the points.
You're staying out, and you're going to shuffle. If there's no caution, you're going to run. We were going to run probably 8th or 9th, get a couple points, whatever it was. But at the same point, the 22 and 4 were not going to get points. They were starting too deep in the field. So we're just, all right, we're going to bump ahead, stay, and then we got a caution. We stayed out. Another caution. We stayed out again. And we ended up finishing 2nd or 3rd in that first stage. That's 8 points. We made it by 4. That was the difference in us making it and not making it right there.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We stayed out just to get a little more buffer. I mean, we had a way bigger buffer than you, obviously, but I think at the end of that first stage, we were at like 40 points or something like that, which was...
I just think if I'm the 22 team, I thought I could win this championship. If I'm the 4 team, I don't think they ever thought that. I think they were more realistic of, man, let's get Kevin a win in his final 10 races and send him out a winner, because they certainly deserve that. Obviously, Rodney and Kevin are great guys, big time racers. But I think if I'm looking at it from their team's perspective, I think the 22's like, well, we're screwed. This sucks.
I mean, Chris Rice picked him to go to the Final 4.
And I think the 4 is more like, hey, turn the noise off, go out and win a race in these final 7.
I think Kevin said that, right?
He
I
said,
seen an article.
we had
He said
no
we
chance.
yeah, we
So it
had
didn't
no
matter. Like, what doesn't matter? We didn't transfer because we weren't going to win. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, interesting to note that all 4 drivers were Daytona 500 champions eliminated in this round. I don't know if that's ever happened before. Yeah.
Great stat. Did you come up with that?
I saw it on Twitter.
Of course.
You should have lied. You
Three, and we
sounded
talked
much smarter than you said, yeah.
And we talked about, going into these playoffs, the possibility of Ford struggling. 3 of the 4 guys were Fords that got knocked out.
There's a whole lot going on. I hate to keep freaking bringing things up, but Bristol dirt, it's gone. You glad?
I liked Bristol dirt, and maybe it's
Get
not.
out.
I mean,
I'm now blocked by Freddie too.
Brett, you get out. We're literally trying to talk about spot on, spot off. That's the topic.
Dirt's for
Oh, we
dirt
are good.
cars.
We can do it now.
I hate it.
NASCAR Cup cars are not dirt cars.
I thought the next gen car was surprisingly effective on that kind of track. I don't know if it was the banking, but also, let me say this. The reason I enjoyed Bristol dirt, even at the expense of concrete Bristol, is how many times do we go to a short track and we're talking about the underbody and the aero and the aero push, and that was the one short track race a year where I could watch Cup guys go out there on a grip limited surface, go out there and just saw on the wheel and just race, and I really enjoyed that, and I hope that we don't lose dirt racing from the schedule altogether.
So
'cause
you
I
want to go to a
enjoyed
dirt
that.
track, though, just not Bristol.
Knoxville, Eldora.
Yeah.
I don't like
Eldora
taking
off the list.
Yeah, I don't know. Seeing that, I mean, when I saw Wilkesboro with the rain tires and Martinsville with the trucks, those were on top of the track, kind of sliding around. They weren't out of control, but they had their hands full. And I just don't see – it's so hard with the way that track moves. And I love dirt racing. I mean, I grew up dirt tracks. And, man, it's just not the same. Like, the cars don't – they don't – the Cup guys, they miss the corners and stuff a little bit, but it's just the track doesn't form the same as me. The cars don't work like they should. We were literally driving boxes with 4 tires on it around a dirt track, and just I don't know. I don't think it is as good of a dirt race as what a dirt car puts on.
Well, looking at Jeff Gluck's poll, only 61.6% of fans said that Saturday's race was a good race, and that is comparative to the dirt race being 66% this year. So, I mean,
well, Denny won the race. So are you talking about?
So you think he single-handedly is the
Yes.
reason why people said
It's literally
100%.
100%. I
Really?
went
I think
through
so.
this with the other driver that I had. If we won the race, it didn't matter if we passed the guy in the last lap, flipped over the start-finish line. People hated the race.
because of
The driver.
who was.
Yeah, Joey.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Joey wins or Denny wins, they hate it.
Yeah.
Kyle Busch is no longer the villain around here. It's Denny. And he's embracing it,
he
which I
owns
love.
it.
I think the winner of that poll is worth a 10-point swing. That if
Wow.
At least.
yeah.
Really?
Wow. You think that many?
And maybe that's subjective on my part.
Yeah,
'cause
no,
there's-
I believe you.
There are races I've enjoyed where I'm like, man, that's a good race. And then Kyle Busch would win it back in the day, or now Denny wins it. And I'm like, no, the fans don't like it. And I think it's purely that. I think 10 points.
Why has Jeff Gluck's poll become such a thing?
It's awesome. Like
I know, but it's like everybody's like, oh, I can't wait to see what Gluck's poll
I don't know.
does.
It says I can't wait to see TV ratings too, and
all
it's
driver
right up
dependent.
there. Well,
If Chase wins the race, it's an 80+ percentage great
Every
race.
time.
It doesn't matter if he leads 500 laps of that race. It's
who won the night race last year?
Chris Buescher.
That was 60.7%.
It
Not a
also
good
is
race.
is also a garbage race. This was
Yeah.
not a garbage race.
No.
I don't. It's just definitely maybe 15% swing, probably at least because of the driver that wins.
One thing I was worried about, and I don't remember this happening in the past, they resprayed before the Cup
Yeah.
race.
Yeah.
And I was
They've
like,
never done that.
I've never done that. And I was like, oh, man. And you saw the beginning of that race was awful. You couldn't pass. It was the same
Oh,
gaps
yeah. I
all
told
the way
Brad,
to
I
the
said
field.
every single car is running the bottom single file right now.
Yeah,
It
and
was a truck race.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. And it was,
Oh, the
and
truck
it
race
was
was terrible for that.
And it was just, it was, you couldn't move. And not only that, couldn't move, like, it was the same gap all the way through. Everybody was split by a car length. It was
Yeah.
just like you couldn't get near a guy. The
You
leader couldn't
even
pass
run the
lap
outside
cars.
on a restart. You couldn't
Yeah.
even make up ground because the guys could just grab the grip on the bottom, even when they got checked up.
Yeah.
They would still just grip up and take back.
I was
off,
glad to
so.
see, and it was like what happened was that I think it was the end of the first stage when you saw a little bit of tire disparity. Larson, Danny, some guys went up there and were
Yeah.
able to clean that off because all it takes is really to clean it off. Like you need to
Yeah.
have a bunch of we saw Jeb Burton was actually the one
Well,
to do it on Friday night.
It's not that. That's part of it too, but they gotta pull the stuff up on the bottom, and Cup cars do a really good job of pulling it up. Like more cars, more tire, they're stuck to the ground, so they rip it up faster than the other cars, in my opinion. But I felt like they put it on a lot thicker.
They did.
AJ Allmendinger came into a Barger Precast Sweet Force pre-race, and he mentioned that the more the Cup cars run it too, the black stuff actually starts getting slicker, and you want to move up and try to lay rubber down in other parts to have more grip.
It stayed pretty good throughout. We made a lot of passes on the bottom, and I would say we probably passed more cars than most coming from the back. When we drove all the way up, we were going to pass Chase for 7th, and where'd you get to?
I finished 14th, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we restarted right with each other once we both pit at the same time, and it was hard to pass, though, man. Like, but we could run the bottom, and
it's delaying the inevitable, which is we're eventually going to find more grip up top. And, I mean, Bristol's in there. This has been how long since they destroyed the old track?
07?
yeah.
Wow, is it that long?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So, I mean, here we are, a long time, 15, 18 years later, and we still can't make the top not be the preferred line.
Does your paycheck stretch as far as it used to? Most likely it doesn't. But you can help hedge against inflation by diversifying your IRA or 401k into gold, an asset that has stood the test of time.
Birch Gold Group has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their retirement savings with physical precious metals. Now you can too. Get a free info kit on gold right now by texting DBC to 989898. Fill out a brief form, then speak to one of their representatives so they can personalize your free, no obligations info kit.
Plus, only for listeners of Dirty Mo Media podcast, when you place your order by October 31st, you can get a gift card up to $500 to purchase Dirty Mo Media and Junior Motorsports merchandise. You can use that for race gear, autographed collectibles, shirts, hats, and much more.
But you can only get this gift card by texting DBC to the number 989898, filling out the brief form, speaking to one of their representatives, then buying from Birch Gold by October 31st.
With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, you're in good hands with Birch Gold. So get started now. Text DBC to 989898.
So listen, I don't know if the irony is obvious to you like it is to me. We just railed on collectively Bristol dirt, but the current Bristol concrete is basically a dirt track. How do you prep it? How quickly can you wash the top off and then move from the bottom to the top and have multiple grooves, and then eventually it becomes top dependent? That is a dirt track.
It is running a cushion.
But yeah, I mean, it definitely. I mean, I don't know. So Denny was running the bottom a lot at the end.
I don't care
think.
what we race around there. It's an awesome track. It's an awesome
It's
venue.
still a good track,
And
yeah.
I don't care what you're racing. I'm tuning in. I'm a fan of Bristol Motor Speedway. I tell people all the time, it's my favorite track. On the NASCAR schedule. It's my favorite race is the Daytona 500, but my favorite track.
What do you think the track needs to be better?
I don't hate it. I love it.
I don't
like
mind it
I
a
even
bit.
loved it when we were ripping the fence, and that was the preferred way around. And you had to kind of get in the guy, and he'd hit the wall, and you'd go under him and clear him and
Yeah.
slide job him. And so, man, I mean, Clint Boyer diamond in turn 3 and 4 on the exit. Like, I love that racetrack. I'm not one of these people that wants to see bump and runs and wreck for the win. And I want to see true racing, and that's what we get at Bristol. I think it's the best racetrack when they don't do the PJ1, potentially on the circuit. But our fan base, they got accustomed to fight for the bottom and root him out of the way.
If you told me that we could run around the bottom and not all be the same speed, I would prefer it to be on the bottom. But that's not going to happen now, because you're not going to get the bump and run because you can't really get to the guy, especially with this car. You know, we're just all going so fast that there's no opportunity to pass.
Like Martinsville.
Yeah.
If I follow you down to the corner, I hit you in the middle. I don't mess you up enough or anything. All you do is grab a gear and go. Like,
Yeah, the only reason you've seen a little bit like I've seen Christopher Bell was leading, and he was able to. He would have to move. He would have to drive in the back of somebody and just get their tires up out of the grip, and they would slide up the hill, and he'd get by him. That was lap cars. You know that's how he was having a hard time passing lap cars.
Lap cars make it. I mean, it makes dirt racing interesting too. I mean, that's how if you're second place, that leader catches. Then
It's just for whatever reason.
I know.
and this isn't a bad thing. What I'm about to say. For whatever reason, SMI, like they have a track like Atlanta. Holy change to it. A track like Bristol, massive change to it. The Roval, stage breaks are coming back at the Roval. By the way, the Roval was invented by Marcus Smith in the middle of the night. His son told us about the story. Marcus walked into his bedroom and said, "Hey, I got an idea. What do you think?" Like, it's just like SMI is constantly looking for the next trendy, cool thing to do, and I don't hate them for that.
Just going back to lap cars for a second.
oh, here we go.
If you watched that ARCA race the other day,
Oh yeah.
holy
Oh yeah.
like there was cars out there at Bristol Motor Speedway that were 7 seconds off the
Yeah, I
pace.
told you that the other day.
That's safe.
The one car had run almost 30 laps in practice, and when I kept looking at it, I'm like, all right, they're going to get better. It never got within 7 seconds of the fastest lap time of the day. That's you shouldn't be out there if that's not. If you can't, like, I don't even know why you'd want to be out there. To me, I'd be scared to death of getting wrecked every lap if you're
Freddie
that
had
slow.
actually a great idea, though.
That's almost
It's,
half a
it's
lap.
Herm's idea.
Okay, it's Herm's idea.
It's Herm's idea. Herm says that we should run 2 races.
One on the apron.
One on the apron for them guys, one on the track for the actual guys that are out there trying to race, and you can't cross the line. Like if you're on the apron guy, you can't. If you cross on the racetrack, you black flag, you're done for the day. If you're a race car guy, you gotta
Well,
go
what
to the
if they
apron.
wreck and come up?
Nope,
I mean,
you can't do that.
You know my stance. You know my stance on that.
Like it was honestly, we laugh about it, but it was ridiculous to look
So
at. You know,
It was.
is there an approval process for ARCA as well?
doesn't look
not.
like it. Like I mean,
Or is
there's 2 issues. Like I don't know. I was joking with Megan. We have a little suite that they give like to friends and family for the spotters, and we were sitting there, and the ARCA race line rolled off, and there was 32 cars in the race, and I told Megan, I've heard of 10 people in this race, like 10 people
yeah.
in the whole race, and that's
Yeah.
not. And I do a fair amount of short track racing. I follow it pretty closely. I'm like, I don't know where any of these guys. All the spotters always usually spot them races, like TJ did. Andy J, who's a modified guy from up north New York, and like I'm looking at the lineup, and like my buddy's like, I'm spotting for this guy, and he tells me a name, and I'm like, I've never even heard of that person before. Like and that's a problem. Like that's an issue. Like I don't know what the approval process is, but then like where's minimum speed at? Like we have a minimum speed rule in the Cup Series. Do they not? They obviously don't have one in
apparently
ARCA.
it's lower than 7 seconds.
Because I mean,
when
it was
NASCAR
ridiculous.
purchased ARCA, I thought that would be one of the first things they would fix. I guess you're just so afraid that if you enforce it and that many cars have to park, they don't come back the next week.
So listen, 2 things happened with ARCA, I think. In the late 2000s, 2012, 2013, you started to have these custom-built ARCA cars. So then you created a greater disparity in speed between the fast cars and the slow cars. Now you have an even greater disparity of speed between the top drivers and the slower drivers, and that's when you get what we got on Thursday.
So what do you do? If you're the president of ARCA, what do you do?
You've got to go run street stocks.
Like the thing, like the race got considerably better. I mean, it was way more. I promise you, it was way more entertaining for the first 50 laps while them guys were out there.
Sure, it was.
It looked like the game. I used this in the suite the other day. The game pole position. You ever watch you ever play the old arcade game pole position like a car, and you're buzzing through this racetrack, and there's just in the way, and you got to steer around it. That's what the ARCA race looked like. But when we finally got rid of most of them, at least not even all of them, because there was one guy. I counted one guy lost 85 laps under green.
Yeah.
85 laps in the 200-lap race.
Well, yeah, dude. It takes about 14, 15 seconds to get around there.
Yeah.
7 seconds a lap. That's about right.
So but like when there was one wreck that wiped out like 4 of them together, which I don't understand how you wreck going that slow, but they did. The race was actually a racing, and you could watch. It was a hell of a battle between William Sawalich and Jesse Love up front. Landon Lewis.
Yeah, he ran
I
good.
can't remember his name.
Yeah.
He ran really well in the '97 car. It was a good race up front, but like it was painful to watch the beginning because they couldn't race each other because every time they got near each other, they were lapping 3 guys at a time. So
Yeah.
it was once they got them guys. So to answer your question, Brett, I think get rid of them because your racing product. I'd rather have 15 good cars out there than 32 and half of them are terrible.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't know what the process is to clean that up, but it would be nice for them to come.
Enforce minimum speed.
Well,
is the
it'd be nice
process.
to have a big ARCA field. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see 25, 30 cars, in at least more than half of them be competitive.
I mean, the last I knew, it cost about $1 million a year to run ARCA competitively. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
All right. Well, with the Dirty Mo Live and Dale Jr. and Friends experience coming up at Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, we have a new segment this week where we are going to chat through what the odds are of certain things happening. And I cannot wait to see what happens here. So I'll kick things off, and then you guys tell me what the odds are here. Ready?
We're ready.
Freddie tells the Columbia story.
I tell it better than he does.
That's
so
100% chance. Your story is way more impressive than mine. Mine is not. Mine.
That's 'cause you don't remember
My
yours,
side of
Freddie.
it's rather boring.
So 110% chance.
The
Valid.
1,000% chance
Got
that
it.
I'll tell that story.
Brett gets lost in Vegas.
The odds of that are pretty low because he's been there before.
Yeah, he
Like you'll think he's lost because he just disappears, but he's not actually lost. He's just pulled the Irish goodbye on you.
I only been lost one time, and it was at 5 points in Columbia, South Carolina.
Same.
Ironically, I just
Weird.
realized we have something in common.
Idiots.
Or I'm adding one. Brett meets somebody that does not like him in Vegas?
That's everywhere.
That's a high. That's 1,000%.
There's people in his
also.
room that don't like me.
Hey,
One really close right here.
What are the odds Brett meets somebody that's there for an ED consultation?
Classy guys. TJ curses during the show.
I don't curse, Casey.
Probably unlikely.
When Dale Jr.
gonna be
starts,
unfiltered,
Yeah,
so-
when Dale Jr. starts giving TJ a hard time, I think
Ah.
TJ's going to either man up or wuss down.
Listen, I've cussed at him. I've called him every name in the book. I just didn't push the button.
I think we
So.
should have like an arm wrestling competition on stage. Bring up a fan that thinks they can beat you in an arm wrestling.
Well, I
match.
just
a tiny fan.
that happened to Dale Jr. one time too, and he left disappointed. That's a true story.
But he's left-handed.
It don't matter.
But if you wrestled him right-handed,
He's just not strong.
Oh,
wow,
next
Starting
question.
off.
wow.
This
Well-
is. Do you think here the next one I see just says
No.
Dale as a bullet point? Like, do you think you'll tell a story that's bad enough for Dale to come on stage and beat the hell out of you?
I could.
You've got that ammo.
Yeah, get that one ready.
There's a lot of ammo in that bag.
I would
there,
love
so.
nothing more than to see Dale charging the stage to beat the out of TJ. That would be my highlight of my.
There's
Bubble and
probably
Friends
things
show.
I could say that would make
Strong
him do it.
possibility after the segment. Fireball shots consumed.
Over under on stage.
How long are we on there? Do we know?
Doesn't matter.
I mean, kind of.
Doesn't matter.
It's. I mean, we,
As a whole, 25.
over under for all of us, like combined.
Yeah.
Oh, Freddie's gonna do mine too. So
I mean, I'm thinking me and you are good for about 15. So, but can everybody else pull their weight? This is the problem.
Well, there's a special guest coming. I know he'll do one.
At least one.
TJ will do at least one. Dale probably ain't going to do one, is he?
No.
Dale going to do a fireball shot?
I'll do
TJ?
one if he does one.
Oh my God!
If he does one. Now we're in high school.
Now here we go.
Welcome
If
back
he tells
high
you to
school.
run around the table, you can do that too.
The point
It's a school weekend.
The point of this
School
is
night.
it's going to be a bunch of us hanging out, having a good time. And at one point, we're all going to be on stage together.
Who
So,
gets the most drunk, though?
no, me.
I was gonna say you ain't got nothing to do.
I have nothing to do the next day. And it's a Friday
Friday.
night in Las Vegas.
Now, with all of our bosses being in Vegas, who gets lost, arrested, and fired?
Brett, for all the above.
TJ's gonna get fired because he's gonna tell a story that makes Dale mad.
Listen, Andrew's never been to Vegas, so there's a solid chance we can get him to do all
we
three.
can get him. Yes, that's actually gonna be like a mission for
Yeah.
the weekend. It's like a scavenger hunt. Like we'll check the boxes.
What? How many days you there, Andrew?
They probably fly in that morning, leave that
3
night.
days. And I have been to Vegas, by the way.
You have.
Yeah.
You ain't
Not
been
with
me, though.
them.
No.
Not with you guys.
You ever
Yeah.
heard of
Have you been to
something-
Vegas or actually like Vegas?
Have you
Like-
ever heard of
have-
the Spearmint Rhino?
I have lost, in my experience, I have legitimately lost 2 NASCAR drivers.
Oh, boy.
Like they went missing. And one the next morning sent me a picture walking down the interstate, which is highly illegal in the desert. And the other one ended up with knee surgery. So if you come hang out with me, Andrew, I promise you I can get you all these
You're in
things.
Well,
good
I've got a
company.
race next weekend, so I hope it's not the knee surgery.
We'll try not to get you injured. Just arrested and lost.
Oh, well, this should be off to a great start here. Don't forget, Friday, October 13th at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino. To grab your tickets, head to dirtymomedia.com/live. And to see if you qualify for a VIP experience, call 800-435-0883. All right, let's head into spot on, spot off. And we will kick things off with the Xfinity Series race. Austin Hill says, "Who needs enemies when you have teammates?" After Sheldon Creed makes contact with Hill, turning him and ending his night.
I think I heard Brandon Jones say the same thing, and
Yeah.
maybe who else did you wreck? Sam.
Spot on, spot of TJ.
I'm spot off. You know, I don't.
Because you did the same thing.
That wasn't even close to the same thing right there. Yeah, I don't. It's not good for them. Those two have worked good with each other. They go to the plate races. They look for each other. We went to Atlanta. They would line up and they'd be tough to beat. But it's definitely not good when they run into each other, and especially at that point of the season, like they can't afford bad races like that. But yeah, I've been in the same position there as well. So it's not a fun conversation, but I don't think Sheldon came off that corner and said, "Yep, this is a lap. I I'm done with Austin. He didn't, just like
Yes.
when Josh did his interview, you hear the other two, and you kind of disappointed in them thinking that he would just go in there and destroy the cars on purpose like that. No one. You'd have to be a pretty special individual to go in there and say you're going to destroy 3 of the company cars, or at that point, because you're still running. If you're still running for a championship, you're throwing yourself out of it pretty much.
But Josh Berry is not going to be there next year. Those 2 guys are. He's going cup racing. It ruined their night. Like, you don't care if he did it on purpose or not. You're pissed off.
Yeah, but I mean, there shouldn't even be a thought process of him. He did it on purpose.
He admitted that it was on him.
Yeah, I mean, you saw that is the exit of the corners at Bristol is it's a trouble zone, and because you don't know. We almost got into it. I forget who was it. We were going around maybe BJ on the bottom, and like Brad was working the middle, and we were up top. But you don't know. Sometimes a guy's going to come off the corner on the wall. The guy's going to come down off. And you're maybe half a car down, and you're thinking he's going to go out there, so you just misjudge a little bit, and it don't take much.
That was
like,
off of 4,
off
right?
of 4, yeah. Like you just
that?
breathe on somebody's left rear heavy enough, they're going to go around off of 4. So the one thing that and we see it all the time. It happened with Joey Logano later. These guys go spin out, and then they hit that inside wall, and it's like a catapult. It springs them back across the racetrack, and it collects. Luckily, we were right behind it, and I was telling the suite yesterday, like, you had to miss that wreck 3 times. Like, I'm calling, all right, spin to the bottom. Now he's coming back across, hits the wall. I'm like, now he's coming back across again.
Yeah.
I think this is just Creed. Creed is a hard racer, and I think he just misjudged a little bit, and it wasn't obviously by no means intentional.
I'm spot on, because this is what makes Bristol special. Teammates can't even be nice to teammates because they're trying so hard. I mean, I remember when one car would get on the inside and the car on the outside would accidentally brush the wall, and it would knock him back down. It would wreck the guy on the inside. So Bristol is one of those places where you can't play nice. You got to go. You got to be giving it your all. And when you see teammates wrecking teammates, that tells me, Matt, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, so I'm spot off for RCR, right? But I'm spot on from a storytelling standpoint, from a fandom standpoint, from a race quality standpoint. I thought Austin's exit was very low. And at the same time, Sheldon's the one that's trying to initiate the pass. So it's on him. It's on him to lift there, too. I think both of those things can be true. And to me, that's kind of a quintessential racing incident at Bristol these days.
You're expecting the guy to go to the wall that's on the outside of you, because that's where you go on the exit of the corner. If he holds it down 3 feet, you're not expecting it. That's when wrecks, happen. And obviously Austin was probably trying to hold him off, too. And
I was having a spot that way, especially late in that race the other night, because we were so concerned about losing track time, track position. I would have to tell Bubba, this guy's been chopping the exit a little bit, and we would hurt ourselves to give them extra room. We weren't able to complete passes because we're having to stay down, because you can't have that one moment where this guy, he chops the exit a little bit, and you're expecting to go to the wall, and now, like Brett said, you make door-to-door contact, you're going to be the one spinning on the bottom
or get a flat.
Yeah.
Spot on, spot off. NASCAR throws the caution for Martin Truex Jr. hitting the wall, and Truex said over the radio, "Was that for me?" Matt, spot on, spot off.
I'm spot off for Martin in the sense that I don't. Is this a spot on or a spot off? That probably should not have been a caution. No matter how you slice it, the caution would have been for Martin. It's either for Martin hitting the wall or it's for Martin being off the pace. So there's no scenario in which the 19 car would get the free pass anyway, so I think it's much ado about nothing. They were probably a little quick trigger happy on throwing the caution there. I don't know why. I don't know what they saw there to think that should be a caution. But I don't think it changes the end result. The 19's not getting the free pass there.
Yeah, I agree. They called it for debris, I think, right? Like on the radio, they said no, debris down the front, which has been common. And like a couple weeks ago, I forget where we were, Xfinity race, a guy got big sideways off of 4, and they instantly put it out, and the guy saved it, and they're like, oh, debris down the front. I'm like, you're so full of shit. There ain't no debris over there.
Well, it was for debris. Then it became for the contact with the wall. They changed it within like a minute.
We talked about this a lot. I'm spot off because there's still not enough consistency for me with that type of scenario. Last year we hit the wall off of 2. We cut a tire, hit the wall. We're stuck on the high side all the way to the front stretch. We don't get a caution. I mean, we're creeping around there. Christopher Bell does the same thing, gets low in the backstretch, gets an intermediate caution. What did we do differently other than we were stuck on the high side. He gets out of the way and gets the caution. We're in the way. We don't get a caution. Now you got a guy that doesn't even spin out, right? I mean, he would have spun out if the wall wasn't there. but he was still going straight and probably would have kept going.
It's reactionary for me because I think that I could see trying to play devil's advocate and see their side of it. Like you look, if you're staring at a monitor or you're staring at the race for the lead, and you look up quick and there's smoke billowing off a tire, and the guy's he's not spinning, he's just sideways, and you see a little bit of smoke. Like reaction is just put it out. Like this guy's going to spin, and you'd rather them. It's hard to say you'd rather them take a second to let it play out because if that happens, then the guy saves it, he overcorrects it, and comes back across and wipes everybody else out. So
I'm fine with a caution.
Yeah.
Just call it.
Yeah, like to your point, just like consistency. We talk about with pit road.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing here is the conspiracy theorists are going to go, that didn't warrant a caution. Did that help Martin Truex make the next round? That's what they're.
Well, he didn't get the free pass because he was part of the caution.
He still stopped the race after he had slammed the wall. Was he going to cut a tire? Was he going to have damage? Did he have you know what I mean? Like, was he going to have to come to pit road? Well, we don't know any of that.
I'll go ahead and tell you, he's going to slow down.
Anyway.
He's going to slow down quite a bit because he just busted his ass and got loose and hit the wall. He is not going to run no super fast laps after that, so he's going to fade pretty quick.
It's interesting, that like in the timing of the caution sometimes doesn't lend itself to
it hurts it.
Like they like when we had that rain caution early in the race, like nothing really changed. Like it was a steady drizzle, I would call it. Nothing really it never got really harder, but the second the 20 got underneath the 7, put it out. Like, what are we doing? Like, is that a coincidence? I don't know. But, like, I don't know why. I'm not saying that they would do that because it doesn't really matter to them at that point in the race.
No.
But, it's the timing of it sometimes that lends itself to the conspiracy theory.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, especially with Bristol, you have to have kind of a quick trigger finger with the rain because that PJ1, when it gets wet.
Well, so the resin's not as bad as the PJ1 used to be awful. Yeah. Like the PJ1, when it rained, you'd have to avoid the resin almost of the PJ1 for.
It was pretty slick Saturday for a lap or two.
It wasn't nowhere near as bad as it was with that PJ1.
No, it was slick, but guys weren't wrecking.
But you want them to have that quick trigger at the rain at Bristol, no matter what, because we were talking about it in the suite the other day. Like if you're 5 seconds from any wreck, basically. If a wreck happens a half a track ahead of you, you got 5 seconds to react to that. So, it's you want them to be that way. But it wasn't. I didn't think it was raining hard enough for a caution at that point, and I was just hoping to get to the end of the damn stage.
They don't take much chance with the rain anymore.
Yeah. Well, after that Daytona deal, yeah.
No, there's no chance with it.
Well, go ahead.
NASCAR, according to their race report, cited the 19 as the reason for the caution.
They went back and changed it.
Yeah.
During that rain because they didn't give him the lucky dog.
Yeah.
Well, continuing on the topic of incidents on track, Corey LaJoie loses control of his car and starts a wreck that took out defending champ Joey Logano, eliminating him from the playoffs. Freddie.
Why would you say that?
Spot on.
What?
How about I seen people listen? This is I love NASCAR Twitter because they make me laugh. I did see one yesterday that obviously this was intentional. Corey did this on purpose because him and Bubba are friends. And what impeccable timing on Corey's part to be able to spin out, hit that wall, and time it just right so he can come back in and knock the whole rear end out of the 22 car. Obviously
Corey and Joey are friends.
Yeah. Allegedly, must not be as good as him and Bubba. He didn't ride to school together. But listen, spot off. You hate to see this decide. And listen, Corey was very fast. Qualified top 10, got track position, led. He didn't win the stage, right? I think Bell got him at the end, but. He had speed, and sometimes you see this mistake happen with Corey, especially when he's running well. He can overstep at times, and this looked to me like he maybe clipped the apron off of 2. He was trying to make it 3 wide on Jones, which probably wasn't necessary at that point in the race. It was so hard to pass. Like we had we knew our strategy was. We're going to forfeit track position in that second stage because we're going to have to stay out to chase stage points. We're going to restart in the 20s somewhere, especially. And then that late caution in that first stage really put it to where guys were going to be able to flip it, and that was going to be in a deeper hole to come out of. So I don't even know where we were running at that time, probably 17th, 18th. We were right behind him. And, we're like, where are you going? Like he tries to make it 3 wide, clips the apron, gets loose, chases it up into Jones, ends up spinning himself, and then he like we talked about, hits that inside wall and kind of catapults back across. But it sucks, just wrong place, wrong time for Joey. But it didn't really hurt my feelings a lot.
So I'm spot off for the 22 because that's super unfortunate. But again, from a storyline and drama standpoint, that's what you sign up for in this format, right? To me, the most remarkable thing and the most memorable thing about that entire thing is that Joey came in to do his post availability for his check-in, and he was in disbelief. He could not believe that had happened. We were asking him questions about, now that you're going to be eliminated, and he keeps looking up at the TV screen just to see if he's not still 34th.
Anyway, yeah.
Like, is 33rd, 32nd, can this happen? And he's like, I still think there could be a way, and there wasn't. And so in that moment, it's so obvious to me, and we want to share this with fans at home, how much he cares, how invested he is. And this format, I think, shows you how much the championship and advancing means to these teams, and that part of it's spot on to me.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, Brett, on this show. Like, somebody is going to have trouble, and a lot of times at Bristol, it's not of your making. It's get collected in somebody else's issue.
It's easy there at Martinsville, obviously Talladega, Daytona, but I was looking at Joey Logano's lap sled after you brought that up, Matt. He's led so far this year the least amount of laps he's led in the last 8 years. Now, clearly, he's got 7 more races to go out and do it. But he's on pace with 260 laps led. I mean, those big years for him, he was leading over 900. So we haven't seen him or realistically any of the Fords other than RFK up front a lot, the second half of this year. So it does suck for him. It sucks for his guys. But I'm going to tell you something, man. I think Corey LaJoie, I think his world's about to change because, he got an opportunity to get in that 9 car. Great opportunity to go out there and showcase how fast he is. But he hasn't ever had a teammate put pressure on him like it's getting ready to happen when we get to 2024. I don't think he's on the hot seat, but we've seen drivers look good drivers. I mean, you look at Eric Jones's, Ricky Stenhouse's. I mean, there's been big-name drivers that we've seen get on the hot seat. I think next year, if he doesn't go out here and really – because he's the veteran. He's the one with all the experience. He's been at Spire, 4 years? I mean, he's got to go out there and be the Spire A driver. And if he's not – I think he gets on the hot seat for 25.
And that team is investing a lot. They've got the Gamebridge money coming in now. The expectation is to no longer be 20th to 25th. They're now in that 15th playoff contender kind of mode. And as a veteran driver, to me, if I'm Corey LaJoie, it's a playoff or bust season next year.
Wow, that's a big statement. And, listen, I love our playoff. I get the significance of it. I don't think making the playoff is elite. I think our round of 8 is elite. I think that's our best legitimate 8 teams, 8 drivers that are out there. Playoff or bust for LaJoie.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow,
I like
big.
that.
Big statement.
TJ, anything to add there?
They kind of covered everything. I'm
He
spot
was
off.
clapping and cheering on it. It was weird.
Yeah, you hate to see it. Well, I mean, seriously, you don't want to see people. Listen, this is why.
This is like last week when you were an ass Casey and you were trying to act like you weren't.
I wasn't mean to Casey.
Look who's talking.
I don't. This is why, Joey's had a rough season. He hasn't had a lot of speed at times. And how many times have we said, "Oh, well, Paul pulled a rabbit out of the hat" numerous times this year, and that doesn't give you a lot of wiggle room in this scenario. So if something happens, this is where you get bid. I mean, you just can't afford it.
If TJ doesn't like a driver, he gives a lot of innuendos.
He's very condescending.
Yeah.
Like,
it used to be Denny. He used to be such a Denny on here.
Still am.
Speaking of being a dick to Denny, where's Dalton? Is he here yet? Where?
He's at no, he's back at the office. I was gonna say he's at Denny's, but he wasn't.
Oh, because do you remember yesterday when we took the picture? What he said?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Instead of smile, what did he say? Denny Hamlin?
Oh yeah.
No, so
that's
like
right.
someone said
Saturday.
give us something to say, and Dalton's like Denny Hamlin.
And then the whole suite went nuts.
Yeah.
Except for
And
the Denny
then
Hamlin fans.
That one Denny Hamlin fan is,
Yeah.
and me.
Well, the one
I dragged him off the bar.
Freddie
beat the
dragged
hell
him
out
off
of
the bar. Yeah.
I think one of the Denny Hamlin fans was there for it. What was the girl that treated herself to her graduation present?
She
from
drove?
Texas?
She drove from Texas.
by
Yeah.
herself.
Yeah, she pulled a Matt Weaver, drove from Texas.
That's not far.
Yeah,
That's nothing.
That's far.
We had a
What-
group, I think, from Maine, from Toronto. Like there were some people who came far distances for.
Forget
for
about
this.
Chelsea.
There's definitely people from Maine there. That's a buddy of mine.
Listen, when y'all see me at Texas on Sunday, know that it's coming from Martinsville.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Valid.
Flying?
no
Driving.
Go. Good luck.
Oh, well, back to Denny. Spot on, spot off. Denny Hamlin leads the last 140 laps at Bristol, responding to fans' boos, saying, "I beat your favorite drivers."
I remember a couple months ago on here, I can't remember who we were talking about, but you said, Brett, that if you were this person, you would go to like the WWE class to learn how to be the heel.
Yeah.
And I think Denny took you up on that offer because
I think he went to Kyle Busch's class.
He is doing a phenomenal job of embracing the villain role right now.
Listen, Earnhardt did a great job with it. Kyle Busch did a great job with it, and I'm here for it. I mean, it's like you said on here a few weeks ago. If they announce your name or you win a race and nobody cheers or nobody boos, you're pretty irrelevant from a fan engagement perspective. Denny, he's got everybody's attention. He's getting more boos than Bubba. He's getting more boos than Kyle. He is the new most hated guy in NASCAR.
You can always tell when Denny's doing something on the front stretch.
The biggest waste of your time as a NASCAR fan for at least the rest of this year would be going on the most popular driver vote and voting for Denny Hamlin, because I promise you he ain't going to win.
Let me ask you this, aside from the villain stuff, I mean, talk about catching fire at the right time. Like, how is this guy not the favorite? Like, he probably should have won Darlington, got a loose wheel. Probably should have won Kansas, got a late caution, and now he does win Bristol. Like,
dominates the end of Bristol. Came from the back after a speeding penalty in stage 1. Like, he's the fastest guy out there. And Toyotas in general are fast right now, but I think it's him or Reddick. That'd be the two I'd pick.
So my favorite thing about Denny right now, and really this is my favorite thing about the current NASCAR product altogether, is that when I first started coming to races in 2010, 2011, the sports stars were so overly concerned with being, Fortune 500 corporate. And I thought, listen, Jimmy's not as vanilla as people say he is, but it was the Jimmy Johnsonification of NASCAR. And as part of this next-gen era, our sports stars are so colorful and flamboyant, and they're not afraid to be the bad guy. And I think 10 years ago, people were afraid to be the bad guy because what does that mean about our corporate sponsorships or our partners? We're making our partners out to be the bad guy. And we have a handful of guys who just do not care whether they're loved or hated or get the middle fingers, and Denny calls them the 11s out there. And I think it's just great for the sport.
If the TV model comes through and these teams legitimately get more TV money than what they get now, you're going to see that continue to be the case. Because in the past, we had to have corporate sponsorship to afford to show up and race, and that sponsorship dictated your resources. And now with the TV modeling, we're more like other pro sports, where we get a bigger piece of the pie. Well, then now you don't have to depend on necessarily that corporate feel that you're talking about. So I am also here for that. I mean, I hope the teams go in and get a percentage of hot dog sales, a percentage of parking, a percentage of every single thing that's out there as a sport, because in our sport, our teams do not get that.
TJ.
Yes, I'm spot on, because I was walking to the truck and could hear it, so I knew it was exciting for the fans. And Denny's embracing it very well. You can go look at his.
Did you boo him?
I was already at the
he
truck.
was already gone. He was booing all the way down the stairs. It was crazy.
Elevator, everything.
I knew it.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, I like when he goes and takes pictures of the guys that are flipping him off and posting them. I mean,
the funniest thing he did in the last years is that 11s. I appreciate you guys giving me the 11s. Like the big fans, I thank you. He walks out, just the villain role. He walks out, and obviously the place blows up booing him. And he just goes to, everybody's going to the mic, introducing themselves, their sponsors, their car number, and he walks up and just says, and walks off.
Now, why do they hate him? What is it? What is it right now that makes people hate Denny Hamlin?
I think it starts with Chase Elliott at Martinsville in 2017. That was like the start of the heel turn.
Well,
if we want to go.
Well, yeah, but he got hit into him.
but if Chase is involved, you're always the bad guy, no matter what. And
I know.
And I think he's completely leaned into that narrative. And I think he's at a point in his life and career, and he's got the new contract. There's nothing that he needs to justify about his role in the sport. So if you want to boo him for it, as far as he's concerned, bring it on.
I thought the Domino's commercial was fixing a lot of things, and it didn't.
PJ, nice PJs.
Yeah, I don't think that fixed anything.
I mean, who doesn't love love? I mean, he's been a part of some pretty significant TV campaigns.
Yeah.
A lot of times that'll correct your most hated
I don't think he
status.
wants to be correct.
I think it's funny because at the same time, when you talk about he's hated, I feel like I see more 11 merch too, because of course you're going to have that devil's advocate of, if you hate the guy, I'm going to love him, so I think it's very polarizing, but he's got a bigger fan base now than he's ever had also.
He partnered with Michael Jordan. How do you hate a guy who did that?
The Martinsville thing probably started it, though. That was
for sure.
That was
started
the
it.
beginning.
Listen,
of
there's
it.
a lot of. I mean, you go out and like, no, there's no secret that my guy is not the most popular, and then Denny hired him to drive his car. That didn't help it. Like that didn't help him either.
Like even when I was spotting that race for Joey and Chase destroyed him, like still
booed him.
You shouldn't have been in. You shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
you're in the way.
That's his track, his race. They shouldn't have been there.
Well, there you have it. Why Denny Hamlin's hated.
Moving on to DBCA main, and Matt, I have a feeling you have a lot to cover on this one with you being a part of pretty much every marquee event, especially around the dirt scene. What is your favorite dirt track?
Oh man, probably Eldora, and it's probably not the best racing track, but to Tony Stewart's credit, he has invested so much in the hospitality. He's revamping the ballroom there. He's the best concession stand in motorsports. And so I know that when I go to a race at Eldora, we had jousting before the King's Royal. There's a jousting contest. And so whether the race is good or bad, it's kind of like a Humpy Wheeler, right? You know you're going to get a show, and that to me is what makes Eldora so special.
You could get a case of beer at Eldora. Like you could buy a case of beer and ice at the concession stand.
My favorite thing about the first time I went to Eldora is they gave me a koozie, and it made it to where dirt couldn't get my beer. I didn't even know there was a thing. That's a long time ago.
Things you never thought would be
never seen
covered. What about, you've even interviewed Chad. I mean, on the dirt racing side compared to NASCAR, I know NASCAR does a great job of making drivers accessible to you and the media as a whole. And I know drivers in the dirt scene, you could pretty much just walk up to their pit area and have a conversation with them. What is the vibe like, and what do you think the future of that looks like?
Well, from a World of Outlaws standpoint, I think WRG has done such a great job of elevating that discipline to making it feel like a really big deal. And certainly having Tony Stewart Racing and Casey Kane's team, those are marquee individuals. There's more money going into that sport ever before. I mean, obviously that's not an Outlaws race, but the $1 million race, I think that draws a lot of casual fans. Anytime that you can say we're paying $1 million, it makes it seem like a much bigger deal. And I think the accessibility, right? Dirt Vision has changed the game, not only for dirt, but pavement. It laid the foundation for the Racing Americas, the Speed 51s, Flow. It's made it to where, you can sit down and watch a race from anywhere in the world, and that's really changed the game for non-mainstream motorsports.
How do you feel about drivers being restricted on running dirt in the NASCAR?
Oh, it's so tough, right? Because I've always been an advocate of let racers run whatever, and it was so rewarding to see Jeff Gordon kind of change that game there for Chase to go run his pavement stuff and for Alex to go run sprint cars, and then the other shoe dropped with Alex getting hurt, and I don't know what the answer is, because I think Jeff would agree that holistically motorsports is better when Alex is running the sprint car, but Hendrick Motorsports is not better when he's not in the Ally 48, and I don't know what the answer is, because those are two things to have to weigh.
Interesting. Well, you yourself get to be on Dirt Vision this week, as
That's
you get
right.
to catch this show
That's awesome.
and every episode every Wednesday on Dirt Vision. Moving on to Reaction Theater.
Hey, Casey, would you give them guys a dictionary so they can find a new big word? I am sick and tired of phenomenal.
Phenomenal. I say it all
If
the
Freddie
time.
goes and takes a shit, it was phenomenal. So get them a dictionary so they can pick out a new big word. Thank you.
On it.
I need a
Dictionary.
I need a
Noted.
cinnamon for phenomenal.
Cinnamon?
Cinnamon, yeah.
I'll tell you what Logano better do. Logano needs to go and get a bunch of those pennies that Corey keeps stacking and put them in a sock and find Corey on pit road after this race and teach him to learn how to drive. Poor Joey. Come on, Corey. Go back to another series because you're going to get stacked with some pennies in your head.
Aggressive.
Attaboy, Corey. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Promoting violence.
Big fan.
Extraordinary, outstanding, fantastic, marvelous.
Incredible.
Marvelous. I'm using marvelous from now on.
Marvelous.
That last call was marvelous.
Well, I know that I'm going to be Brett's what an idiot today, because we all know fans aren't allowed to have their own opinion. But, man, good thing we're not going back to Bristol Dirt next year, because, man, with Bristol Dirt, they'll get a little bit sideways there. Not have enough forward drive, and they're going to throw the caution for it. I know he's in front of the leaders, but geez, he straightened it out. It was all good. Could have kept going, but good thing we're not on dirt because they're going to be sideways more than he was. So we're going to throw another caution.
What's he talking about?
Truex.
Yeah.
Truex got sideways at the fence.
Well, I
Yeah.
saw that.
But he's saying, like, if we run dirt, that everybody's going to be sideways and they're going to throw more cautions.
Actually, we don't really go sideways and run dirty either.
Yeah,
We literally creep around the bottom or where the grip is. We don't really go sideways.
There's
on
no.
there.
We don't really
we're not
drive off the
slinging
right rear.
anything.
No.
I know that I'm not the only motherfucker on this planet that's tired of listening to Mike Davis's ass on every damn Dale Jr. download, flirting and complimenting the hell out of Alex Tim. We know, Mike Davis. Shut the up about it.
Jesus. Listen, the only thing that I will say, there's two things. Like I tweeted a couple weeks ago, the funniest thing about the Dirty Mo podcast is at the end of all the shows when Dale's giving out the social handles, the way he says TikTok, I just laugh every time. But now the funniest thing is at the end of the DraftKings reads, they have sped Dale up to about 3 times, and it's like blah, blah, blah. He sounds like the old Micro Machines guy. But yeah, and the one question I have, maybe since Tiff's here, she can answer this. How come they haven't given us that erectile dysfunction read yet? I don't know. I feel like we would do a phenomenal job with that one. Oh, I'm sorry, a marvelous job with that one.
Freddie, it's a very hard read.
If we didn't have it before,
very
we're
hard
about
read.
to have it now.
It is a hard read, I would imagine.
It's
My favorite thing that Dale Jr. used to say was zip recruiter, in the way he would say it. So he's gone from recruiting people to talking about.
Listen, if you go back and you got to listen to one of the Dale's shows, he does the same DraftKings read that we have, and it's at the end. Could we speed ours up? I want to hear that.
Do a lot of our fans have erectile
I slow
dysfunction?
ours down.
Maybe that's Gluck's next poll is, do you have erectile dysfunction?
And listen to DVC.
Because I want to know.
Hopefully those people that are in the hot tub have it.
Actually, that's a valid point. Yeah.
I mean, that hot tub's getting full.
But could you imagine showing up at that hot tub with a bottle full of erectile dysfunction medicine?
Brett, we don't want to think about that.
They'd be like fiends over
All
that
right,
stuff.
well, this
Listen.
show has taken a turn.
Well, I do
What
have
do you
something,
mean?
Casey.
What?
So listen, and when did y'all do the personality trait thing?
What?
Oh, the colors?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That's like part of our onboarding.
Yeah, so
You get
I'm definitely
is
a
that
green.
Yeah,
onboarding?
Like
like
when you're
water,
getting
is that like
trained.
waterboarding? What is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Basically, that's a phase
That's
of
part
it.
of it.
So
Yep.
when I was at Hendrick, we did this personality training stuff, and it's really accurate how it's scary. You answer all these questions, and they come back and give you this whole sheet on what you're like, and it is to a T. Like, you're like, whoa. It's kind of scary, but
I'm not taking that test.
no, it's actually
You'd be disappointed in yourself.
You're definitely
I
a
will let
red.
me down.
Have you ever done it?
Well, I saw the one like rotating on Twitter where it's the colors. Is
Yes.
that one? Like,
Yes.
I was red.
Yeah, he's red for sure.
He
You're
is dark
either-
red. He's maroon.
You're a blue or I'm a green.
I'm a blue.
Yeah, I'm green.
I don't
he
know
said I
what
would be
each
yellow.
what does each color mean?
Well, Dale
So-
said the blue is cool.
Well, if you're red in the
No.
face, usually it means that pill you took worked.
How do you
Hopefully
know?
only for 4 hours.
How do
I
you
don't
know?
know. I haven't done this
We
one.
did, hey, listen, we do have a buddy that he took one, and like he had to go to the hospital.
I don't
So-
think we're okay.
so the
Brett,
side
we're not
effect-
talking about
Who?
the exact same.
Wait, who?
So, you know him.
I know. I think
Oh,
you said it
absolutely.
before.
I'm giving 0 hints. But like eight
What
hours
car is
He's
later,
not sitting at the table. I will say that.
What car is he on?
8 hours later, he went to the emergency room.
Okay,
Didn't
well,
need,
anyways,
didn't need
do
his
we
hand to
have-
hold the towel up.
Do we have?
Y'all brought it up. I'm just telling you
I
a
mean,
story.
you technically did after.
Now the whole garage is going. We're going to want to know.
We're
Can you-
definitely getting this ad read now.
Can you tell what the color traits are? Yeah, I
What?
mean, I found something like red, green, blue, and yellow are the colors. Red profile indicates a direct personality. That's definitely Brett. Green denotes an extroverted nature. Blue are paced, and yellow personalities are structured.
Blues, what?
Blues are paced, and yellow personalities are
They
structured.
eat paste?
Yeah, what is
Like paste, like P-A-C-E-D, not
Oh,
paste.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I got a different
So
one.
like
Oh,
tomato
what do you
paste.
got?
I don't know.
What do you got?
My blue is trustworthy, intelligent, confident. The yellow is active, positive, and friendly. My red was aggressive, passionate,
Brett.
assertive.
That's Brett.
What's
Brett.
green? What's green?
The green is reliable, wise, and responsible.
That's me.
That's definitely me.
I really don't think we have any issues.
Is
figuring
Marvelous
out
on there anywhere?
personalities
That's
on
what I
the
was looking for.
No colors
phenomenal.
needed. All right.
I'm definitely green because whenever Dale Jr. would have to go to appearances, I'd be like, "Hey man, you got to get ready." He's like, the one time he's like, "You're so by the book," and he got mad. But I'm not the one that has to be there. You are. So
I'll send the link, and how about next week? Everyone takes their personality
Well, with
test.
Brett,
Do
you
we
know,
really
Brett,
need to?
You're
I mean,
good. You don't have to take it.
All right, let's move on.
Brett's going to lie.
he's
Brett,
definitely
do
gonna
the
lie.
opposite. Answer the opposite of what you think.
Okay. I'm still hung up on this freaking ED thing y'all talking about.
Why?
I'm just curious how many people can't need help. You know, like
Let's see. All right,
I
Brandon.
mean, I'm getting close to 50.
Raise a hand.
We're
How about
taking
some
a
hands
we're
over
taking
there?
a poll in this
Do you
room.
need help, Brandon? Andrew? Freddie?
I think we're good.
As the 30 demographic, I'm good.
Oh well.
Look at
Are we done with calls?
No,
Dennis.
no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
I was just waiting.
Dennis over there writing HR right now. Please schedule a meeting.
How do I turn this thing off?
We're still figuring that out.
Harder than a set of
What else
woodpecker
do you
lips.
I'm just going to play the next call.
Yeah,
Hey, go to the next one.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good race. We got to address something, though. Why on earth do you people not have air conditioning? It is 2023. They sell air conditioners. Put one in. We're tired of hearing y'all bitch about it.
Hey, good news. It's nice in here now.
It's comfortable. I'm
It's
actually
beautiful
cold.
in here.
I'm cold in here.
I'm not
Yeah.
cold, but it's nice in here now. But it helps that it's not 100 degrees outside. But
We would love to know the answer to your question from May until September.
Yeah. Well, that's because they turn it on 10
but
minutes
it's,
before
we
get
got
here.
something over there now. It's air
Yeah, but
conditioning.
it literally gets turned on.
Well, the problem is noise. Like we can't have air. This,
Well, it doesn't run either over
yeah,
here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can't
The
have.
problem
it
is there's
running.
no ducts in here for air conditioning. That's actually the real problem.
Who looked at this studio and decided it was a good idea?
Mike Davis.
He said, "Let them." He's probably
said,
trying to
"Let
help
them."
us.
Yeah.
It's like a
Meanwhile-
sauna. It's like he's trying to help us get some.
Meanwhile,
lose some
he's
weight.
down there in the lap of luxury. I mean, I saw what that studio transformed into because when I used to do it with Mike Davis, it was like a little,
The
that
closet.
little, yeah, it was like a
It was a
closet.
closet.
And look at it now.
Look at Denny's.
That's at his house, though, right?
Yeah.
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 Can we build one at your house?
No, but we put one at your house.
You don't want anything to do
You
with
have an
my house.
RPG.
I'm not
room.
going to Brett's house ever again. No more.
Our RPG room can be the recording studio.
There you go. We can do it there.
Hey, Andrew. It's nice to meet you at the track this weekend, but you got to keep your head on a swivel in the garage, man. I saw the pace car about to take you out.
You almost get hit by the pace car
Yeah, because it was like during a restart.
What an idiot.
during a race. Like during the race.
No, like during, like, yeah. So you know how like I guess I didn't
He is
see
You
it.
weren't paying
crossed up
attention.
Right here. He is crossed up.
He's
right now. Yeah.
we're locked up.
The security guards were like, "Hold on, wait," and I was about to cross, and the pace car just comes like flying in, because you know it cuts across the media
It would have
center.
been much
Yes.
better for content purposes if you would have ended up on the hood of the pace car.
Yeah.
How many
hit by a
years
pace
have
car.
you been going to racetracks?
Like 10, 11 years.
That's a lot to be about get run over.
So listen, this happens
First
a
time
lot.
at Bristol though, so I didn't know the pace car route yet.
So I think this was 2013, where it was the late model driver, Chris Van Dyke's wife, nearly ran over, got hit by Kyle Busch, who had just pulled off the track under green, and she was kind of meandering in front of the media center, and Kyle comes in like a bat out of hell and actually clips her, and we find out later, oh, that's Chris Van Dyke's wife, someone who's been in the racing industry for like 15 years. We're the ones getting hit.
Yeah.
Wow.
It looks like your phone's been hit.
A lot, yes.
Holy cow, that's got more miles on it than your truck.
Yeah, you guys talk about the truck. This thing's been through it more. This
Yeah.
thing got ran over at Slinger
I
Speedway.
couldn't tell.
Slinger.
But no, the catch is, look at the other side.
Clean as a whistle.
I call
Actually,
it clean, but
That's not clean. That,
Well, that's
that
close.
is-
the
I
privacy
can't-
screen's
I can
chipped.
Yeah.
Great radio here.
We done
We
with
got
calls?
more.
Oh, keep going.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting down for this Friday night NASCAR race, and I'm watching, and this guy in the 88 seems pretty good, but I just have one question. There's no way this guy's affiliated with Junior Motorsports. I mean, I didn't see him run or crash into any other JRM driver all night. I thought that was a requirement to race there. Anyways, it's great to see, 1 out of 5 JRM cars finish the race, and we can have some more drama next week.
Yeah, Dale did a great job. Like they had their pit crew. Who was changing tires on that thing? He went behind us and came out like 5 spots ahead of us, and then he ended up leading that run.
I saw that. I was wondering the same thing.
I'm like, did they do too? I'm like, what's going on here?
They had good stops, really good stops.
But he did a good job all night.
And I wasn't surprised. You know, a lot of people were like, "Oh man, Dale Jr.'s fast." I thought he'd run 15. Dale Jr. has a ton of laps around that racetrack, especially compared to the rest of the field. He knows what it takes to run the high side, which is where the groove went. So, he's been out of the car for a while.
Brett, you know he ran the bottom the entire time, though.
I saw that, but still, he ton of experience at Bristol Motor Speedway, and I think the same thing happens at Homestead. I mean, that's a place where he's got a lot of experience. The groove moves around. Like I think he'll be a factor.
I thought it was interesting to hear him talk about it afterwards. Like relating it to a golf game. Like if you're just making pars, whatever, or bogeys, and you're not running well, it's like, all right, you know what, this is probably dwindling down, and I'm about ready. Now here you go in position to win this race, and it's like, all right, now I'm ready to damn sign back up and do them all now, So hopefully he runs well.
Well, even the last Richmond race I did for him, I'm wanting to say we were leading that race, and the caution came out late again for something else, and he got beat on a restart. He's not a late restart. He's in trouble because he's not aggressive enough with these guys. He doesn't want to ruin their races. A late restart, and he's going to fade some. But if you let it single out and it turns into a long run, he's going to be a factor. So,
is there a pop in motorsports quite like the Dale Jr. pop still in 23?
No. I mean, you could still, he takes the lead and the place goes ape again. Obviously the crowd size is not the same, but but no, there's no reaction like he gets.
I was so happy to see him have that run because I think that the industry, if he wants to keep doing it for a while longer, we need him to show up once or twice a year to kind of provide that jolt because there's nothing like a Dale Jr. race.
And the cool thing is he can do it in the playoffs. He can bring that big superstar presence to an Xfinity Series playoff race, which only helps all those other drivers that are out there too, because more people are going to come, more people are going to watch.
Hey, DBC, just got back from the Dirty Mode Media Ultimate Experience. Just want to say, everybody who gets that together, I really appreciate you. All the personalities are great. And if anybody's listening and you've been thinking about going, you really should do it because it is awesome. I just got one thing to say. TJ Majors, I can tell he's a little guy just from his voice, but he's just, when you see him in person, he's just so much tinier. He is just a tiny little guy. He's so funny. And that just explains a lot. So I just had to get that off my chest.
It's fun size.
Yeah.
Just a tiny little guy.
Yeah.
For one, shout out to all of the people that came to hang out with us. Two, shout out to Brett and Spot On Activations, Shayna, Megan, that kind of took care of everybody, and I don't know what it looked like by
when I stand next to you and Brett, I look smaller for sure.
So thank you to them. Thank you to all the people that worked in the suite, but thanks for coming out mostly.
Yeah, Dirty Mo Media, man, great client of ours. Have a lot of fun, and listen, we've done 5 of those things, I think, at this point. We've done Bristol, Vegas, the Roval, and obviously we repeated Vegas and Bristol. That was the rowdiest crowd.
There was like I said, there was drunk people in there at 4 o'clock or 4:30, whenever the hell we were. So I can't imagine what that looked like at 10 o'clock.
A couple of them I knew were going to need Nats before the race.
Everybody got one shot of Fireball, and some people got more than one.
How many did that kid do?
That's what I was going to ask.
No, that kid was funny though. He was pumped up to be there.
Yeah,
how cool is it? But think about this though. How cool is it as a kid to get to go do an experience that is, I mean, listen, it's a big price point. We know that about it. It's $1,200 a person. Like, man, I never got to do anything that cool as a kid.
I never did that, yeah.
There was like a family of 5 in there.
Good for them.
Yeah, it's a good weekend.
That was among one of the most fun days I've had at the track, hanging out in that
That's
suite.
a big statement. You've been going for 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
I almost got killed.
Yeah.
I'm glad the suite outweighed your near-death experience.
I mean, it wasn't near death, but I mean,
I wish you would have got hit so bad.
Quick.
I wish you would have got ran over.
Dude, he's got his Iron Man thing coming. You can't hurt Iron Man.
I would. Could you imagine? We would have had
to
build a build a One Idiot Hall of Fame just for Andrew.
I've got the best idea I've ever had on this show.
Give Andrew.
Run Andrew over.
Let's slip one of those pills into his Iron Man drink the morning of the race.
You guys are the worst.
Talk about Iron Man.
We know who's finished first.
Yeah.
They don't have to do any
course record.
Hey,
it's a photo finish.
They don't have to do any of that army crawling stuff, do they?
Oh, valid point.
Beat him by never mind.
Y'all are giving visuals we did not need. Are we done with calls
Yeah,
here?
thank God we're
don't
done.
swim on your back.
All
Is
the
that a
guys in here,
shark?
all the guys in here are laughing, and all the girls are shaking their head and not very funny. Never mind, it's not a great idea.
How's your backstroke look?
All right. Well,
Got a sail?
Sail away. Well,
you can give us a call. Let us know what you think about. I don't even know. Just let us know what you think. Call our new number 704-802-9572. Thank you for those who called in. I'm losing control of the show, so let's move on to Ask DBC. Submit your questions to us
bigger.
by using
It's like a rudder.
#AskDBC.
It's hot in here again. Jesus.
This first question is from Cassie. What inspired Matt to become a racing journalist, and why does he care so much about grassroots racing?
Okay, so listen, I told this story earlier. My dad's a dirt racer, and so to me, it's really all I've ever known, right? So like, I always wanted to be in the sport. I wanted to race. That got to be very expensive. I went to school, decided to go that direction. But really, from a grassroots standpoint, I always wanted to be in NASCAR, right? Anyone who is in racing, they tend to want to work on Sundays, and I do. I still love Sundays and what I do there. But the one story I would tell is I went to a pro late model race at Mobile, my home track. And anyone who's in racing, they know the Vanderlei family. And back then, DJ was still racing. And being from Mobile, really good friends with the Vanderleis. So I stood on top of their hauler. And this is like really early in my career, like 2009, 2010. And they were parked next to Mike Garvey. And they were involved in a crash together. And I'm standing on top of the Vanderlei hauler. And they're right next to each other, just jawing at each other. And I'm like, man, I want to talk to all these people. I want to know what their backstories together are. Why are they so mad at each other? And I did that. And being able to tell those sorts of really raw stories about people who are not racing for millions of dollars is really the impetus behind why I cover grassroots racing, because the stakes are not as high from a financial standpoint, but they are from an investment standpoint, if that makes sense.
I got a question. So I know what it takes to apply to a NASCAR race and say, I want to come be a media member at your event. Will you give me a credential? What about all these other places you go to? How does that work?
It's similar, right? I mean, for NASCAR, right, like I haven't had to have a hard card, right? So it's been a long time since I've had to go through the track. But it's similar in the same standpoint that you reach out to the track and say, hey, I'm coming this weekend at Martinsville. It's a NASCAR track, so it's the NASCAR comms people. But typically for Slinger, you know, I text Todd Thielen and say, hey, I'm coming, or Tim Bryant at Pensacola for the Derby, text or email. So it's very procedural, and it's just, hey, they know who I am, right?
Yeah.
This next one is from Mark.
What the?
Does Matt refrigerate ketchup after opening?
I don't know where this came from, but this started to take off in the last 2 weeks. I don't. And people tell me that it's this cardinal sin. I don't do it with barbecue either.
Me either with barbecue. I do with ketchup.
It tastes gross.
So I don't have to with ketchup? It says refrigerator after.
I'm still standing here, so whether or not I can. But, yeah, it tastes pasty, and, yeah.
I didn't know that.
I'm like ketchup. I put ketchup on ketchup, and I refrigerate
You put
it.
ketchup on
I would
ketchup?
eat ketchup.
What?
Yeah, I could eat ketchup.
In recent years, I've defaulted to the ketchup packet because people have told me for so long that what I do is not cool. So I now say I pack it.
If you open my pantry up, I bet I have 6 bottles of ketchup sitting there on the shelf.
You put ketchup on mac and cheese?
Ew.
I can, yeah.
This next one is from Jonathan. Who finishes higher in points in 2024? Colleague, Spire, or Rick Ware? And do any of these teams have a car that makes the playoffs?
I said Corey has to make the playoffs, so I'm going to go there. I still think their best bet's a super speedway race. But I thought early this year, you know, that 7 team was running so good from a consistency standpoint. We were 12 races in, and I think they were like 16th, 17th in points, and so they're capable of that. I think Colleague's going to be stronger too. But because I said Corey has to win a race and win a playoff spot, I'm going to say Corey.
I think Spire definitely will have the most potential to do so. I think the what they're getting ready to do over there, you know, we hear influx of money coming in. We're hearing about them expanding possibly to other series. you know, they are going to have the best opportunity. Rick Ware's going to – I think all these teams are taking a step in certain directions. Rick Ware's obviously taking a big step up next year. They took a big step this year. I think they're only going to get better next year with Justin, and I assume the 15 will kind of be that same Newman, Yaley kind of rotation. I don't know. I haven't heard anything on that car. We're still waiting to hear about the 16 Cup car. But like Brett mentioned earlier, that driver roster of Corey, Carson, and then Zane, that's potential for somebody to go out there and steal and win possibly.
I mean, the 5 drivers in conversation here, TJ, are Hemrick, LaJoie, Hosfar, as you said, Zane Smith, and Justin Haley. I mean, and you're asking, there's no way more than one of those is going to make it.
No.
So of those 5, which one?
I'm leaning towards Corey. He's got the most experience, and he can put together. I think Carson's going to shine at times, but I think Carson's going to have more DNFs. He's not just young.
In my opinion, none of them make the playoffs. Who has the best chance? It's probably coming down to a plate race, and Corey finds himself, I feel like, in position more often than not at the end of those things. So that's where I'm leaning there with
my
Spire.
big question mark is how much is Rick Ware really going to utilize RFK? And if that alliance is as strong as what Justin Haley led me to believe it may end up being, he didn't say it would be, but may end up being. And we've seen Rick Ware do a lot of things this year from a personnel perspective. And from a crew guy perspective, I mean, I've had this conversation before. It's hard to get top-level crew guys to come work on a car when you know that drivers are getting in the cars that have never won anything. It's easier when you're having a conversation with a guy that's won Xfinity Series races and won. Hell, Justin's won in every single series, Trucks, Cup, and Xfinity. So I think Rick Ware's got a lot of good things going on. Colleague, a lot of question marks there on that 16 car, like Freddie said. And the question for me is, man, who's that teammate? Is it going to be a veteran? Is it going to be a guy who's won before? Is it going to be a guy who can win? Because Daniel Hemrick, for whatever reason, he lacks wins. He's a great race car driver. He's a great dude. But one win in however many years he's been in these National Touring Series doesn't scream that he's going to go out and win a race to make a playoff. And I do think y'all are absolutely right. They're going to have to win one of these races to make a playoff. And being where they're at, there aren't many chances. Road courses, plate races, it's hard to steal a win these days in this car.
Are you guys surprised that Hemrick hasn't won more? Because he's always up front. He's always the bridesmaid, second again on Friday. Why has that not translated more to wins?
I feel like, and Brett can speak to this more so than I can because he spotted for him for a season. He just makes mistakes. He has speed, but then when he's in contention, sometimes he'll speed on pit road or get in the fence, and a lot of that I think comes from he is. He thinks about every single detail that is going on in that race, and sometimes I think it hurts him.
Overthinks would be my answer, and Freddie finally got around to it. And again, has speed, has experience. I mean, there was a time when I said he was the best driver at RCR, and he hadn't even won yet. And I still think he's got that, but I think he's got look, this is his last shot. He's going to get the Cup. He's coming in on a car that needs to run top 20 beginning of the year. Chris Rice said it on the show. They were struggling. Now they know kind of where they're at. AJ's been showing a lot of speed at ovals. So Hemrick's getting in that car at the right time, but he's going to have to go out there and perform. This is a make or break year for him.
I agree.
Before we move on, I sent that tweet out this morning about Ask Matt questions. I got a good one. Do you plan your schedule out like start to finish beginning of the year, or is it more like like week to week basis? Obviously, you know what races you're going, the big ones, but weekly. Like, are you moving the schedule much?
Yeah, so I'm smiling big right now because I actually have kind of a meticulous process. I'll tweet this later this week, but I buy every October this big, thick physical planner, and it's got like the 3 by 3 inches day by day, and I write down every single race that I could theoretically go to on a given day. So there will be some days, like on a Friday, it'll be a tour type modified race here, super late race here, the truck races here, and 2 or 3 weeks ahead I'll be like, okay, am I going to the Cup race? Because that kind of dictates it, right? Cup first, and then is there an SRX race that Wednesday or Thursday, and kind of reverse engineer my schedule.
I think a fan should win an experience to just ride with you for a week. I mean, what a cool thing to do. I mean, you're living. If you're a race fan, you're literally living every single race fan's dream. Now, I don't know that they have the posture to keep it up. That's what's so impressive about it for me is you just keep doing it. Like after a month of that, I'd be like, I'm tired. I need to go home. I need to rest.
Well, I don't know any better, right? Like I don't know what I don't know because I don't fly a ton, right? So And I've learned to love the process. And I will say this, not because I'm here right now, but you guys get me through so many drives and have contributed to me being able to make 2 more hours. So thank y'all for
You're
that.
welcome, man. We're glad you listened.
Moving on to What an Idiot. Matt, do you have anyone you want to kick things off with?
Yeah, well, so I thought about this yesterday when I was kind of preparing, and we've kind of beat around the bush on this topic, but I still go back to anyone who thinks that Josh Berry, who is like the pillar of junior motorsports for 13 years, is going to, one, sabotage 3 cars, sabotage his own championship chances. He wants that championship so bad. And most importantly, I've known Josh for the entirety of those 13 years, and I've seen him finally snap on Bobby McCarty. I know what eventually drives him to that point, and it's not what happened at Bristol. It makes no sense. And if you think that Josh is going to sabotage this company that has been his heart and soul, you're an idiot.
I agree with you.
Who you got?
Well,
You got
how
Liz?
often do I text you during the week or on the weekend and asking you, who does the driver drive for?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
it's often.
I mean, Freddie, who does this guy drive for? And you'll tell me the team name, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I knew that. Well, I left here last week, and I had to go to Sandusky, Ohio. And on the day before on this show, I got on there and was saying that crew chief should be kicked out and all that. Guess where I had to go?
Thorsport.
Thorsport. I walked in, I saw Ty Majeski's truck, and I was like, first thing Rich Luscious says when he walks up to me, enjoyed your show yesterday, Brett. And I was like, I'm an idiot. What an idiot. Just bash the crew chief and then walk into the building.
Was the tire guy still there?
Tire guy was still there.
What does he do when he told
No,
him?
nobody swung at me. That's the good news.
Oh, well, I like
But
this
I'm
one,
going to tell you something. Thorsport, an amazing operation. I don't know if you've been up there.
I have.
Holy cow. Those guys have tons of companies on the campus. I mean, it's like a miniature RCR version of a Truck Series team. No wonder those guys are successful. Obviously, they have good drivers, but I didn't realize how big their operation is. And to be only a Truck Series team and have been around since basically when the Truck Series started full time, it's impressive what they're doing.
And they're good sports about stuff like that, too, because I've had to take some shots, too.
Yeah.
And I see them the next week, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. We good? Yeah.
Oh, I had done a sponsorship deal with them, which is why I was up there. But I literally had it never registered until I opened the door. And I was like, you dumbass.
You got anybody, TJ?
I mean, I don't know if they're idiots, but just the danger that you're in, some of these drivers when you're that far off the pace. Like, it's scary.
Somebody's an idiot in that situation for sure.
I mean, I don't know, like, if you aren't winning a bunch of races in something before you decide, hey, I'm going to go run the ARCA Bristol race, you need to be winning in stuff before you go and try to make that next step, because if you don't, it can be bad, I think. I mean, a lot of these people they have money and they don't want to run where they're at anymore and get the experience and get good where you're at before you decide to move up.
All right, so another round of
want me to do my one
eliminations
idiot,
coming
or-
up. Oh, you didn't do it yet? I thought you went first.
Damn, Brett.
My one idiot has to go to my friend Ryan Blaney. And I don't know if anybody saw this, but Ryan shoved Bob on pit
Saw
road.
that.
What?
Yeah. Bob was trying. Was it Harvick?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bob was kind of chasing Harvick on an interview to camera, and I guess he nearly or did bump into Blaney. And obviously, I don't think Blaney knew it was Bob. And they both tweeted that they've talked about it, and they're all good. But reactionary, Blaney turns around and gives old Bob a shove, and I'm like, damn, you can't be shoving Bob. Damn, I mean, the hell.
Wow, how did I miss that?
I just seen it this morning for the first time. But yeah, so what the hell, Ryan? Knock it off.
That's a big
I
one.
just texted it to you, Brett.
Moving
awesome.
on to DVC picks.
Before we do that, though, Casey, because I'm going to need some help here.
Oh no, that's why I'm talking about DVC picks first.
Yeah, but if we get Matt Weaver to tell us which 4 drivers aren't going to make it to the next round first, then we may know who I need to stay away from.
Well, my bracket's shot.
Is it?
My bracket is the absolute worst.
It's killed.
Did you have us out in the first round, man?
I did.
Off.
Did you have me out? Did you have me out in the first round?
I had the 1 out, I had the 23 out, the 34, and
47.
47.
All right, Casey doesn't want intel, so we'll pick. DBC picks. TJ,
Where the
you
hell
won?
are we racing?
Texas.
Texas.
Texas, Talladega, Roval.
I have
One of
the
us has
order.
all single-digit finishes those last 3 races. I don't know which one.
Everyone
Everyone in the top 10 this
finished
week.
within the top 7. So the picks order is TJ, Freddie, Casey, Brett. Brett,
Where are we going?
unfortunately, going to Texas.
Hey,
You
it should-
picked last, even though you finished 7th.
Hey, have I picked Denny Hamlin yet? No. Fastest guy last 3 weeks, Denny Hamlin.
Good pick. Weird. I will take.
Wait a minute. Wow. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
No, Casey
Sorry,
goes,
I
actually.
said it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you
second,
said-
right? Am I second?
Yeah,
Casey,
Casey,
you
you're
go.
second. You pick second.
I will take Martin Truex Jr.
It's a good pick.
Toyota.
I will take Alex Bowman.
Not a Toyota, not a playoff driver. Interesting.
I think I'm going to go with, oh, man, do I want to use him yet? I'll go with Larson.
Larson.
Matt, who would you pick to win Texas?
Chase Elliott.
Interesting.
Damn, I picked him a week too soon.
Who do you pick to take the championship?
I had the 11 at the start of the playoffs, and I still feel pretty good about that.
I would at this point.
So which 4 aren't going to make it to the next round, Matt? Looking at this thing. I'll turn
Yeah.
this. Yep, right here it is. So which 4 aren't going to make it?
TJ.
Obviously, the 4 that are out right now, Ross Chastain, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace.
Hit him if he picks both of us, TJ.
Yeah, I'm trying to be consistent to what I had at the beginning of the year. So I know that I had the 11 winning the
but
championship.
it's okay. It changed.
Yeah,
You can change. Yeah.
I have the 6 going into the final 4 too, so I'm not going to eliminate them.
Wow.
So I still think I have to say the 23. The 8 has not been super consistent. I'm not seeing the 8.
He's been consistent. He's been consistently bad.
Right.
He's been wrecking in practice.
I had the 1 out in the last round, so I think to be consistent, I would have to say that too. So the 1, and I would say the 12 because Team Penske just doesn't have what they need to have right now.
Brad, you know the only car that has single-digit finishes in the first 3 playoff races?
You?
Who do you think, Brett?
Man, I don't know because Talladega is a complete wild card, and the Roval, now that we've got stage breaks coming back again and they've changed the restart zone, it's almost too hard to guess. But I mean, when you look at it, you certainly think those top 4 are going to the next round. William Byron, Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Larson, obviously fast. Larson may be at the biggest deficit here though, plus 12 going in. That's not a lot of playoff points from a win and stage win perspective. If he has a problem at Talladega, he's going to be staring down elimination when he gets to the Roval, and you guys know how easy it is to wreck there. I'm going to say falling out is Bubba Wallace.
You.
Sorry. I don't want you to fall out. Ross Chastain, Christopher Bell, and I'll go with Matt on the Kyle Busch thing, man. He talked me into it right there.
Freddie,
I'm not picking. I can't pick my own guy.
TJ.
I mean,
I'm staying
I
out
think
of it.
I think that I agree with Matt that the 8 has not been. He's making a lot of mistakes. Like he's wrecking in practice. He blew a tire a couple weeks ago, but he's made mistakes in practice. Blaney just has not had speed of late. We saw last night again. He kind of had decent in the beginning of the race and faded. The 1 has not been great. But we see it all the time. There's going to be somebody's going to wreck at Talladega. Like we talk about, we talk about the first round. We're like, the top 4 guys are going to breeze through here, and Truex makes it by like 6 points. So you're going to have stuff happen, and it's going to shake things up, especially going to Talladega in the middle of this deal.
If Joey makes it in, did Martin fall out or did Harvick fall out? Or what?
It was Harvick.
But it had to be close.
It was Martin, us, Harvick. I think Harvick and Joey ended up tied.
Yeah, they were.
Gotcha.
So for you guys going into this next round, is the strategy consistent with trying to get those stage points, at least for the first few?
Have to.
My question for Freddie is, you have got to capitalize on these next 2 races because of your reputation at the Roval.
What do you mean?
And, it's not like Bubba.
No,
It's-
yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's not Juan Montoya.
We could, but you went like all we have to do is we got to get above the cut line, obviously, in the next 2 weeks, and then we just have to do what we did at Watkins Glen, just go out and run well enough to maintain the gap that we have. If we can find ourselves, 5 above the cut line, and then
See,
go.
you're in trouble with stages, though.
Yeah, well, that's the problem now with stages. You don't know because
At some point you're going to be in the soup.
somebody's going to have to, there's going to be guys that flip it, and so it's almost
Exactly.
easier at times to get stage points because
You can't repeat
guys are
Watkins
flipping.
Glen because if you're fast, you qualify good, you're good all day.
Yeah.
At the Roval, at some point you're getting flipped back there,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's where it gets messy.
The one thing that I don't know if we mentioned it on here last week, and maybe it came out after the show, but how about the restart zone at the Roval?
I know.
What the hell?
In the middle of the
in the
dot thing?
middle of that kink down the front straightaway. I didn't think turn 1 was that. I mean, turn 1 at Indy we needed to do something because turn 1 at Indy was a disaster. I didn't think turn 1 at the Roval was that big a deal. It's wide enough we were running through there 4 and 5 wide at times.
It drives me nuts that these decisions are made 2 weeks out. It drives me nuts.
I mean, we've known enough.
Yeah, but they change it publicly, and then they change the stage breaks, and man.
I don't like I said on here before. I think you could have done more. I think this was a just reactionary deal to the last two races. I think you could have done more with the stage lengths to make it viable to where you could have different strategies versus just going straight back to stages. But again, I agree with. I think it was Dale said it. Like you want the same format for all the playoff races. If you throw cautions in one race, you should probably throw them in all of them for the stage breaks.
I wish we could have left the chicane on the backstretch out because that's what the original plan was, wasn't it? They were going to leave it out for the Roval.
Oh, really? So just run straight down the back straightaway?
Oh, yeah. I think they actually tested it.
They did.
They tested
Really?
it doing that, yeah. And it was, I guess AJ Test was one of the ones, and he said it was sketchy, but that'd have been a lot of fun.
That'd have been flying.
They'd have been hauling ass getting to that
it'd been
front
so
stretch
much
chicane.
fun. Yeah, but it'd been fun.
Yeah, it would have been.
Leave both chicanes out. Start turn 1.
So, Matt, before we close out the show, I want to know, you cover, obviously, every form of motorsports, and you've seen...
Have you been to Millbridge?
He has. I know it for a fact. You're always welcome, though. I've seen you interview guys like a Larson back when he was, just getting started in dirt racing. Of all of the forms of motorsports, which one do you feel takes the best route to get to that Cup Series?
It's changing by the day because when the next gen first came out, I would have said, put these kids in a Trans Am car, TA2, and we're becoming way more road course centric, and the car is more of a road course car. I don't know that the dirt is a valuable model anymore, just because if the Xfinity car was the car, that's a dirt car, right? I think drivers have to just be malleable. I think that the more flexible a driver can be towards a constantly changing landscape, and listen, this next-gen car is going to keep evolving and changing too. So the more a driver is comfortable learning on the fly, I think that's for the best. So I would say if you have the means to try everything, you can't take one discipline to NASCAR anymore.
3 superstars. I can't talk.
Them three stupid stars.
3 superstars that are coming up the ranks that are under 18 years old, because you see them all.
Yeah, so it's funny because I cover them so often that I don't even know their ages. So Jesse's over 18. He's in ARCA now.
Yeah.
I can't tell you under 18 because I can't think of Gavin Bochel's pretty good. Jade's incredible. I cannot wait to see Jade Avedissian once she starts to try other disciplines. I would have thought, and he's not 18 now, but I thought Buddy Kofoid was earmarked for NASCAR, and that's not going to happen now.
Brent Cruz.
Brent Cruz is really good, definitely under 18. Yeah.
And you mentioned mostly Toyota racing development drivers.
Oh, they're the leaders in that phase, right? I mean, they are the ones developing drivers, and then Chevrolet and Ford gets to have their pick of the litter.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for hopping on. Before we close out, I wanted to give a shout out to a huge listener of DBC and NASCAR fan, Wyatt Banks and his family, Abby, his mom. He's struggling in the hospital right now, and just want to say we're thinking about you and rooting for you. Biggest fighter there is. So
Absolutely. I met him recently.
yes, huge fan. But thank you guys all so much for listening. Catch us at
Weaver, who wins the 300 this week?
Peyton Sellers.
Biggest late model race in the country. Martin.
Virginia boy. He's a hell of a late model driver. That's why you picked him, huh? Appreciate you coming, brother. When you text me back how excited you were, I was like, man, this is a good idea. So appreciate you.
Thank you.
See you guys. We're out.
Have a great week.
Later.
Follow.